Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 150, Get Huo Xishen to come down and apologize to my snacks. Chapter 150, Chapter 150, Get Huo Xishen to come down and apologize to my snacks. Huo Xishen looked at Huo Qingyuan. Huo Qingyuan quickly shook her head to clarify. No, it's not me. It's second sister-in-law. She likes snacking whenever she's watching television dramas. These are all for her. That detestable wife of Xishen's. Huo Xishen looked around and asked, "Where's your second sister-in-law?" "Second sister-in-law must be sleeping at this hour." "Big brother, why didn't sister-in-law return with you?" "I miss the food she cooks." At the mention of his wife, Huo Xishen frowned and said, "I don't know. Tell the servants to put all these snacks and tidbits away." Unsure of the reason for her reaction, Huo Xishen glanced at Huo Qingyuan and the maids. They were all feigning ignorance. "Qingyuan, what's going on?" "Big brother, I'm really sincerely reminding you that second sister-in-law's things should never be touched. If she's angered, the consequences will be unimaginable." Huo Xishen was immediately interested. "Since when did my timid sister-in-law who always has an insignificant presence become so ferocious? What about those stuffed toys?" Huo Xishen pointed to the rows of stuffed animals on the TV cabinet. "Second sister-in-law said that our home looks too empty, so she decided to add some cute little stuffed toys to make it look more warm and homely." Second sister-in-law again. All of a sudden, Huo Xishen glanced at one of the display shelves and asked, "Where is my golden skull?" "Big brother, second sister-in-law said that thing looks bizarre and scary. She doesn't want the girls at home to be scared, so she got Uncle Zhang to put it away in your room." Huo Xishen pushed the frame of his glasses up with a hint of playfulness on his face. "This sister-in-law seems really nosy. Put those snacks away, they're unhealthy," Huo Xishen instructed before heading upstairs. Recently, Jinyi had been smitten with a hunk from Thailand and finished watching a cheesy and cliché drama that revolved around a handsome CEO. She only went to bed at 4 am. The sun was already shining bright when she woke up. She slowly got out of bed and washed up before heading downstairs in her slippers. "Huo Qingyuan, open a bag of chips for me. I want the pumpkin-flavored one." Holding the book, Huo Qingyuan's hand trembled and she said, "Second sister-in-law, are you hungry? Shall we have Western food for lunch?" Jinyi had already walked towards the sofa and sat down. When she saw the empty coffee table, she frowned and turned around to look at the cabinet behind her. "Where are my snacks? Big brother is back." Jinyi looked at Huo Qingyuan and stayed silent. Big brother is very similar to second brother in certain aspects. They don't like mess and clutter at home. After a moment, Jinyi finally asked, "So? What does it have to do with me?" "Second sister-in-law, let's put the snacks in the wine cellar, there is still a wall of shelves in the wine cellar that are empty." Jinyi came to a sudden realization. "Did he take away my snacks? Where is he? What's your big brother's name again?" Huo Qingyuan stammered a little. Huo Xishen. "Where is Huo Xishen?" "He's upstairs." Jinyi slapped her palm on the table and exclaimed, "Go get Huo Xishen to come down and apologize for my snacks." "Second sister-in-law, are you serious? Big brother is not third brother, he's very powerful. Big brother is not only good at fighting, but he's also a medical professor. He can easily give you trouble." "Why? Do you miss Huo Xishen's feather duster?" "Second sister-in-law, the snacks really haven't been thrown away. Uncle Zhang placed all of them in the underground cellar." Pulling a long face, Jinyi said, "Put them back where they used to be." Chapter 151, I like straightforward people like Huo Xishen. Chapter 151, Chapter 151, I like straightforward people like Huo Xishen. "Second sister-in-law, I haven't turned 20 years old yet, can you let me live for a few more years?" Huo Qingyuan secretly wailed. "Second sister-in-law, didn't you make Uncle Zhang move big brother's skull back to his room too?" Glaring at him with her beautiful eyes, Jinyi said, "How can that be the same? Why did he place a skull there for no reason? Is he scared that others don't know what he does? Besides, I told Zhang Qiuquan to wrap that thing in layers of plastic to protect it. Are my chips getting looked down upon because they're cheap? Second sister-in-law, you're sparing a thought for the potato chips, but they may not necessarily appreciate it." All of a sudden, the sound of steady footsteps came from the second floor. Jinyi subconsciously looked up and saw Huo Xishen making his way down in a white lab coat. He was very tall and had similar features to Huo Xishen. However, he seemed to be much more mature than Huo Xishen. He looked especially aloof and charming in the white lab coat and his silver-framed glasses. Big brother, this is second sister-in-law. Walking gracefully towards Yan Jinyi, the handsome Huo Xishen said with a slight nod, sister-in-law. Yan Jinyi looked up and said, don't call me that. Other than old Mr. Huo, everyone else in the Huo family used to be hostile towards the former Yan Jinyi, so she didn't find it strange that Huo Xishen seemed to despise her. I heard that you moved all my snacks to the wine cellar, is that true? There is no need for there to be junk food in the house. They're unhealthy, Huo Xishen said in a gentle voice, but the gaze in his eyes was distant. The Huo family's mansion is so large. Huo Xishen is definitely entitled to a few square meters of space, right? Yan Jinyi retorted. Huo Xishen couldn't help but glance at her. Yes. I'm his wife, so his territory is mine too. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Huo Xishen nodded. The smile on her face instantly faded and she placed her hands on her waist. What's wrong with placing some snacks on my own territory then? Why? Do you despise snacks and are you hoping to let those manufacturers go out of business? Also, my stuffed toys. Yan Jinyi pointed to the TV cabinet that had been emptied. Did you not have a childhood or what? Why are you so disdainful towards them? Yan Jinyi. Huo Xishen frowned, feeling that Yan Jinyi seemed to be different from what he remembered. So what if you're a good doctor? Back then, I used to be a bandit. Back then, I used to be an osteopathic therapist. I'm well equipped with skills. You're just relying on advanced medical technology. In ancient times, you probably won't be able to recognize any herbs. Yan Jinyi used to be an osteopathic therapist. That's rare. Huo Xishen did not get angry and instead even laughed. Sister-in-law, can you really fix fractured bones with your bare hands? Yan Jinyi raised her chin proudly and said smugly, of course. It just so happens that I have a rather special patient. Sister-in-law, since you're so impressive, why don't you tag along with me? Yan Jinyi looked askance at Huo Xishen, secretly thinking about it. She was not a fool and knew who she could work with and who she couldn't. Huo Xishen was clearly much more reliable than Huo Qingyuan and Huo Zihang. She waved her fair hand and said hostilely, I'm charging a consultation fee of 100,000 yuan. Cash or bank transfer. 100,000 yuan to fix a fracture. Xishen's wife is indeed unique. If sister-in-law could cure, 100,000 yuan would be just a small amount. Yan Jinyi grinned widely and patted Huo Xishen's shoulder. I like straightforward people like you. Sure, lead the way. Chapter 152, Sister-in-law used to be quite timid. Chapter 152, Chapter 152, Sister-in-law used to be quite timid. Yan Jinyi is pretty arrogant. Huo Xishen gentlemanly gestured to lead Yan Jinyi. He drove so quickly that Yan Jinyi began to feel dizzy and nauseous. Yan Jinyi fastened her seatbelt and asked with a pale face, where are you rushing off to? Will it kill you to drive slower? Are you really Yan Jinyi? Huo Xishen suddenly asked. Yan Jinyi was stunned and she looked at him worriedly. Duh, of course I'm Yan Jinyi. Sister-in-law, you used to be very timid. I'm surprised that you learned martial arts when you grew up in such a family. It was impossible for a person to change so quickly. As an authoritative expert in the medical field, he was habitually observant of everything. Yan Jinyi seemed different from before. Although she still looked the same, her personality was very different. Yan Jinyi stayed silent for a split second. No wonder he's a renowned medical professor. Huo Xishen is really far from what those two insignificant nobodies can compare to. Young Master Huo, why don't you think that I just used to hide my brilliance in the past? Or rather, I used to play hard to get. Play hard to get. Yes. Yan Jinyi winked at her and said, the Huo family detests me so much that I'm forced to resort to some means to attract your attention and reap benefits as the second young mistress Huo. That was the first time someone had ever said those words to him openly. Gripping the steering steel with both hands, Huo Xishen looked at the road ahead. After a long time, Huo Xishen said, Sister-in-law, you're very unique. You openly said the things that others have no qualms about saying. It's nothing too shameful. Didn't I marry into your family for the sake of money and power? If the Huo family doesn't have these, I'm afraid only a fool would marry into this family. Huo Xishen coughed and suddenly laughed loudly. Interesting. He pulled over when they reached a hilltop mansion. The white mansion was towering over the mountain and there were numerous trees surrounding it. There were a few security guards walking around at the main entrance with a few batons. Why is it so mysterious? Is the injured person a criminal? Huo Xishen pushed his glasses up his nose and exclaimed, the Huo family members have always been motivated and driven to bring glory to the nation. Huo Xishen doesn't seem that kind. He has a reputation for being scheming and vicious. Sister-in-law, just follow me closely. The exterior of the hilltop mansion seemed extremely ordinary, but she didn't expect there to be a different world inside. It was a well-equipped equestrian arena that had all sorts of facilities. Those who passed were all muscular men in sports attires. When they saw Jinyi following behind Huo Xishen, everyone looked at them curiously. This is a camp for men and it's incredibly difficult for them to meet women. These men are quite masculine. Jinyi remarked, holding her chin in one hand. Sister-in-law, aren't you curious about where this is? Sniffing the familiar aura, she said, maybe, this is the lair of the Huo family's guards. The people there were all emitting ferocious auras and were similar to her peers in the Black Cloud Fortress. Jinyi raised her brows and thought, not bad, this place suits me. Seeing that Jinyi seemed to be interested, Huo Xishen said, Sister-in-law, you seem to like this place very much. This place is not bad. The women of the Huo family all think this place is filled with too much testosterone. Meeting Huo Xishen's gaze, Jinyi said, that's a good thing, it means there are a lot of hunks. Xishen seems to be in danger. Let's go in. Huo Xishen pointed to the room in front of him. Chapter 153, on the account that your trotter is worth 100,000 yuan. Chapter 153, Chapter 153, on the account that your trotter is worth 100,000 yuan. Without even thinking about it, Jinyi reached out to push the door of the room. The first thing she saw was a large, snowy white bed. There was a young man who had a muscular body and chiseled features lying on the bed. He was quite good looking, but he seemed to be bearing with excruciating pain. He was shivering slightly and his lips turned pale while his forehead was covered in sweat. The layout of wealthy families is not as simple as you think. Those who are dignified enough have to be operated in secret. I believe you've already guessed that this is the camp of the Huo family's private guards. Jinyi turned to look at Huo Xishen and nodded. He is the captain of the escort team, Jinyi. The bone of his arm is seriously misaligned and he doesn't want to receive an anesthetic. These days, it's rare to see one who would rather endure pain than receive an anesthesia. He's truly a man. Jinyi obviously did not expect Huo Xishen to bring a woman there. With a defensive look on his tan face, he asked, young master, who is she? Sister-in-law. Slightly stunned, Jinyi asked, is third young master Huo married? She's Xishen's wife. Many people in the squad of guards knew about Huo Xishen's marriage, but they had never taken her seriously. They simply thought that she was a dainty, delicate, and pampered socialite like Huo Xishen's wife. Jinyi obviously did not welcome Jinyi much. Young master, this is a place for men. Second young mistress Huo is too delicate and noble for this place. It's better for her to return. Huo Xishen pushed his glasses downwards and said alone on the sofa. Sister-in-law came here to fix your bones. Fix my bones. Jinyi looked at Jinyi. He had to admit that she was indeed very pretty, but he didn't think that she could fix his bones. Young master, are you joking? Huo Xishen didn't answer and instead glanced at Jinyi with some thoughts in mind. Simply put, you're looking down on me, huh? Not expecting Jinyi to blatantly ask such a straightforward question, both of them were stunned. Jinyi had grown up with the younger members of the Huo family and hence, he was close to them. Besides, he had always looked down on Jinyi so he didn't show her any respect. Second young mistress, you ought to stay at home and catch up on television dramas or go out to meet the wives of other rich men for shopping sprees. There's no need for you to come to such a place. Jinyi glanced at him with disgust and retorted, if not for the fact that your trotter is worth 100,000 yuan, I wouldn't have gone to the hassle of coming all the way here. 100,000 yuan. Young master, I trust your skill. I think you'd better do it for me. I didn't know that second young mistress who really needs this 100,000 yuan. Jinyi immediately lost her temper. I do need the money, so what? If you're so impressive, get that dog Huo Xishen to reactivate my black card. You look like a decent human being. If you're slightly uglier, I'd beat you up. You're really getting too far, huh? Huo Xishen stared at Jinyi and squinted as he thought, since when has Jinyi become so hot-tempered? Jinyi subconsciously touched his face. Second young mistress seems a little different from before. Without hesitation, Jinyi strode forward and pressed Jinyi's arm with one hand before grabbing his wrist tightly with another. The chilliness in her eyes made Jinyi feel a chill down his spine when she stared at him. Suddenly, Jinyi tightened her grip. The immense pain immediately spread towards Jinyi's body, and he instantly broke out into sweat. Hey, what are you doing? Jinyi ignored him and instead quickly pressed the acupuncture point on his arm before yanking at it. Crack. The sound of bones being rubbed together resounded particularly abruptly in the room. Chapter 154, Who is the Dog? Chapter 154, Chapter 154, Who is the Dog? He had thought that getting his bones fixed would hurt, but he didn't expect it to hurt that badly. Jinyi's face was twisted into a grimace and he was clenching his jaw so tightly that his eyes began to redden. Seeing his reaction, Jinyi thought, indeed, he's a true, tough man. My underlings have to have numbing cream applied to their bodies before they have their bones fixed. Jinyi pulled his arm and twisted it around for a long time before clapping her hands and saying, "You're done." Huo Xishen had been sitting at the side and watching them. He could tell that Jinyi was very skillful with fixing misaligned bones, and he reckoned that she must have treated at least dozens to 100 people. However, she had been devoting her time to working hard to provide for her family and make ends meet. How did she get the opportunity to learn this? Later on, she got married into the Huo family, so it was even more impossible for her to learn it. Huo Xishen got up and stepped forward to check Jinyi's arm. "You really fixed it?" After suffering the great pain, Jinyi felt a huge burst of relief. Pressing a hand on his arm and twisting it, he said with a look of astonishment, "It seems to have really been fixed." Second young mistress Huo surprisingly has such a skill. Jinyi humphed coldly and outstretched her hand. "Since I fixed your arm, you can transfer the money to me now." "Arm." Jinyi coughed, no longer feeling that repulse towards Jinyi. "Young master, I ought to be the one paying the 100,000 yuan since second young mistress fixed my arm." Huo Xishen stuck a hand into his white coat and whipped out his cell phone with his other hand. "It's all right, it's just a small sum." Jinyi frowned at the two men and simply stretched out both hands. "What are you fighting for? Each of you shall pay me 100,000 yuan, that'll be fair and square. Hurry up." Huo Xishen and Jinyi subconsciously looked at each other, thinking to themselves, how is this considered fair and just? Jinyi widened her beautiful eyes and barked menacingly, "What? I've fixed the misaligned bone of the captain of the Huo family's guards. Is his arm worth less than 200,000 yuan? You people are indeed as stingy as that dog. Petty misers." Jinyi mumbled continuously while Huo Xishen transferred 100,000 yuan to her account. Jinyi hesitated, but nevertheless took out his cell phone as he looked at Jinyi's cell phone screen that had lit up. "You have received 100,000 yuan that was transferred to your account." The two notifications sounded with a pleasant chime. "That's more like it. How many of your members need to have their bones fixed? I'll give them a discount." This woman is really bold. Seeing that the two did not answer, Jinyi sighed regrettably. "In the future, there is no need to bother Big Brother with this kind of stuff, just leave it to me." Huo Xishen glanced at Jinyi and thought, "I'm a medical professor, but my consultation and treatment fees have never been as high as hers. Don't you guys commit violent acts all the time?" Jinyi asked, suddenly approaching Jinyi. Jinyi was startled and hurriedly turned his head away when he looked at Jinyi's pretty face. "Ahem, second young mistress, we are now living in a harmonious society. Stop pretending, I know very well what you people do. Why don't you take me along next time?" It had been a long time since she experienced what it was like to be a bandit, and she missed that feeling dearly. Jinyi thought, we really don't get involved in those dealings. At most, we get more menacing and ferocious when we're carrying out missions in highly dangerous countries. Huo Xishen suddenly spoke, his voice clear and pleasant. Jinyi gave him the side eye. "What's the matter? Who's the dog? Who else can it be except your younger brother, Huo Xishen?" Huo Xishen was dumbfounded. Jinyi was flabbergasted. "How audacious of you to call that scheming and vicious man a dog." Chapter 155, Not only is he a dog, he's stingy too. Chapter 155, Chapter 155, Not only is he a dog, he's stingy too. Looking at the two of them who looked like they were constipated, Jinyi asked rhetorically, "What? Don't you think Huo Xishen is a dog? Not only is he like a dog, he's also very stingy. When he goes to the washroom, does he not?" At this point, Jinyi paused and said, "Forget it, I won't go unless I ruin the image of that dog in your hearts. Even if you don't say it, we can already guess what you're going to say next." Huo Xishen began to find his sister-in-law more and more interesting. Who else but her would dare to slander Huo Xishen like that? "Since your bone has been fixed, I'll send you home." Jinyi was immediately displeased. She originally thought that Huo Xishen was rather good-looking and intelligent, but now she began to find him disgusting. "What's the hurry? It's my first time here. No matter what, I have to get all the men to come out and take a good look at them to get to know them better." "All the men?" Huo Xishen and Jinyi looked at her with bewilderment. "Are there women here?" "Of course, I'm an exception, but I'm a fairy so I can't compare to ordinary women. Second young mistress is so narcissistic. Does sister-in-law have such a unique personality? This is not a place for you. I already made an exception by bringing you here." "What exception? You just don't treat me as your own, do you?" Jinyi did not continue to pester him. Before leaving, she took a deep glance at the group of young men who were training on the field. Seeing this, she clenched her fists tightly and swore to herself that she would conquer this place one day. Lately, female fortress leader had risen to fame and the ending song of the film could be heard in all alleys. Seated in Huo Xinjiao's car, Jinyi pointed at the mall that they passed by smugly. Did you hear that? That's the ending song of the film I starred in. Huo Xinjiao had been preoccupied with academic research and was completely ignorant of the entertainment industry. In fact, his memories of the entertainment industry were only those that he had during his childhood. He thought that the actors and actresses who were popular now were the same as those that he watched as a child. It seems to be quite a hit. Sister-in-law, are you famous now? I'm more famous than you. After intentionally showing off to him the first film that she ever starred in, she didn't get the reaction she wanted. Seeing how displeased Jinyi was, Huo Xinjiao smirked and asked, Sister-in-law, do you enjoy acting a lot? Jinyi shrugged her shoulders and said, It's interesting, but my main purpose is to earn money. All she talks about is money. Why is Jinyi so money-minded? Sister-in-law, I'm very curious about where you learned those osteopathic and massage techniques from. She's much more skillful than I am. Nonsense, I learned it from a teacher of course. Who else could I have learned it from? Oh. Huo Xinjiao raised his handsome eyebrows. I wonder if it's convenient for you to reveal who your teacher is? As far as I know, you shouldn't have had the opportunity to learn this. Jinyi guessed that Huo Xinjiao would definitely try to get to the bottom of the truth. Looking at Huo Xinjiao with a composed expression, do you and I know each other well? Of course I'd know better than you whether or not I had the chance to learn it. Do you know what it means to keep a low profile? Sister-in-law, you're pretty arrogant. It's just a matter of character. A dim light flashed in Huo Xinjiao's warm eyes. It's been a long time since I've met such an interesting person. It's a shame she's Xishen's wife. Huo Qingyuan had been feeling anxious since Jinyi was taken away by Huo Xinjiao. 2 hours passed, but she hadn't flipped a single page of her book. After a long time, the two of them returned. Huo Qingyuan hurriedly rushed over to receive her. Second sister-in-law, are you all right? Did you get hurt? Did brother make you drink any random water? Chapter 156, I have never passed my exams. Chapter 156, Chapter 156, I have never passed my exams. Qingyuan, is this the impression you have of me? Huo Xinjiao asked in a low voice, staring at Huo Qingyuan with a squint. As soon as she heard Huo Xinjiao's voice, Huo Qingyuan trembled. I'm just worried that second sister-in-law won't get along with you. Won't get along. As far as he knew, he probably had the best temper in the entire Huo family. Has this arrogant and hot-tempered young lady been conquered by Jinyi? You're old, you don't get the tacit understanding between us youngsters, Jinyi said, pouring herself some water in a good mood. When are your final exams? Huo Qingyuan was instantly unsettled. With a shrug, she turned around slowly to pick up the reference books on the sofa. There are still 2 more days to go. Jinyi nodded. In fact, she didn't have any expectations for Huo Qingyuan to pass with flying colors, but the latter seemed to be extremely eager to do well and show her some results. I've never passed an exam before. Hearing those words, Huo Qingyuan's eyes lit up. Wow. I thought second sister-in-law is invincible, but it turns out she's a worse student than I am. Jinyi thought to herself secretly, well because I've never taken an exam before. When she was a bandit in the past, there was a girl in the village who belonged to an affluent family which later slipped into poverty. That girl was the one who taught her to read and write. After coming to this messed up world, she inherited the memories of the original owner. She really wanted to experience the legendary school-time romance. The box office sales of Female Fortress Leader had already exceeded 2 billion yuan a month after its release. If nothing went wrong, it would probably be one of the highest-grossing films in box office sales by the end of the screening period. They might even win a place in the list of top films of the recent years. Lin Chenggong was put behind bars for trying to take liberties with Jinyi, and his reputation had suffered a huge hit too. On the other hand, Tao Wei regained confidence and the big-time celebrities and fellow directors who used to despise him had all begun trying to build connections with him again. Jinyi received a call from Tao Wei immediately after she woke up. Jinyi, have you heard of the variety show named The Weekend, which is a popular program that airs every Saturday evening? The producers and main creators of our film have been invited to participate in the next episode. While squeezing toothpaste, Jinyi said, Oh, I never heard of it. Tao Wei really wanted to yell, you work in the entertainment industry, but you don't even know about this program. What else do you know? Only popular celebrities or famous figures who are newsworthy will be invited to this show. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for every artist to be on this show. How much? Jinyi asked, her voice muffled and unclear as she had already started brushing her teeth. How much can I earn from being on this show? At least hundreds of thousands. After all. Without hesitation, Jinyi said, give me the time and address. Jinyi, please buck up and have some backbone. Our film has exceeded 2 billion yuan in box office sales. How can you get so excited because of such a meager sum? Tao Wei wiped his cold sweat and said, okay, I'll send it to you. Ah, I get to earn money again. I'm one step closer to becoming a self-made wealthy woman. Jinyi recently had the intention to buy a mountain and recruit some underlings, so as to rebuild the Black Cloud Fortress. In order to buy a mountain, she had to work hard and earn money. After washing up and preparing to go downstairs for breakfast, she saw Huo Xishen and Huo Xishen sitting on the sofa, watching a crime flick. Big brother, why is it difficult to slit the neck? Huo Xishen answered seriously, because it's difficult to find the artery. Chapter 157, Is it that strange that I've killed a pig before? Chapter 157, Chapter 157, Is it that strange that I've killed a pig before? Before Huo Xishen could say anything, Jinyi said, I know, actually it takes skill to do that too. With a few large strides, she walked towards the sofa and pointed at Huo Xishen's neck excitedly. Newbies are too timid and insufficiently skilled. The blade might be too blunt too, so it's hard to kill them all at once. Huo Xishen looked at Jinyi and thought, why does she act like she understands me very well? Actually, it's not that troublesome. Just place the knife here. Jinyi leaned closer to Huo Xishen and grazed her fingertip across his neck. A slight vibration of the blade will make it easier to make a cut in the flesh. Once you apply force, the head will be severed immediately. You don't have to do it so slowly, that'll cause you to be stained with blood. Huo Xishen somehow felt a cold chill in his neck and he hurriedly and timidly left his seat. He felt like he was on the verge of getting beheaded. With a gleam of light in his eyes, Huo Xishen said, Sister-in-law, it seems you have done quite a bit of research on this. Jinyi waved her hand and answered proudly, I've tried my hands at it too. Huo Xishen and Huo Xishen stared at her. She paused and immediately coughed with her fist in front of her mouth. I've slaughtered pigs before back in the village. It's just a trivial matter, that's a piece of cake. I beheaded the pig. Looking at her like she was a monster, he asked, you slaughtered pigs before? Putting her hands on her waist, Jinyi retorted, why? Do you really think everyone is as spoiled as you? I've lived in the village for several years. Is it very strange that I've slaughtered pigs before? The former Jinyi had really lived in a village before. Sister-in-law, do you know anything about anatomy and dissection? Huo Xishen suddenly asked. Jinyi's eyes lit up as she answered, no, but I've always wanted to know more about the skeletal structure of humans. There was a lack of resources in the fortress in the past and so she would take her underlings with her to hunt in the wilderness. During those trips, she inevitably encountered skeletons and bones, which she would then bring back with her for further study. Sister-in-law, if you're interested, I can break it down for you into layman terms and give you some insights. Jinyi pushed Huo Xishen away immediately and moved towards Huo Xishen. Sure, tell me if there's any torture method that will make one feel like they're in a living hell. This one's widely known. Cutting off all limbs while leaving the head intact. Jinyi rolled her eyes as she was already aware of that. What exactly is the organ structure of humans like? I've read several books about it but unfortunately, I haven't had the time to put theory into practice. Huo Xishen thought, you want to put it into practice? You're out of your mind. It was Huo Xishen's first time encountering a girl who was so interested in such things. He generously fed her with information. It may be impossible for you to try your hands on the real thing but I have a few specimens that are very close to the real deal. It's almost convincing. That's fine, it's a good skill to learn. Since Jinyi was particularly interested, Huo Xishen instructed the servant to bring a detailed diagram of the structure of the human body and said, being taught in person is definitely better than reading off of books. Maybe, I can give you some guidance. Seated cross-legged on the sofa like an obedient child, Jinyi answered, sure. The two of them were discussing about an extremely brutal topic. The topics of their conversation went from the process of picking and breaking tendons to accurately killing someone with a single, fatal shot. They talked about everything under the sun that was related to that topic. Seated at the side, Huo Xishen's hair stood on ends. Jinyi was indeed fierce. Of all things, she wanted to learn about such cruel and brutal skills. No, it can't be considered learning. She probably knows more than Huo Xishen does in some aspects. Chapter 158, I can guarantee that those people will never get up again. Chapter 158, Chapter 158, I can guarantee that those people will never get up again. After a few days of interaction, Huo Xishen began to have a good impression of Jinyi. She wasn't as delicate as she seemed and in fact, She was rather brutal and fierce. Huo Xishen was a busy man and he was mysterious even when he returned home. Zhang Qiuquan, where's Huo Xishen? Yan Jinyi was watching a zombie film and making her way downstairs with a bun. As soon as Zhang Qiuquan saw Yan Jinyi, he subconsciously shuddered and said, young master is going to attend a medical symposium. Oh, what about the other two? Third young master may be in the company, Miss Huo went to collect her exam results today. She's probably coming back soon. Do college students still have to collect their exam results in person? Yan Jinyi looked at Zhang Qiuquan in bewilderment. Huo Qingyuan's excited voice sounded from outside almost as soon as Yan Jinyi sat down. Second sister-in-law, I passed in all subjects. As happy as a lark, Huo Qingyuan waved her newly printed results slip at Yan Jinyi. Yan Jinyi smoothed her hair and sat down calmly on the sofa. Second sister-in-law, look, this is the assessment of my grades in all subjects for the semester. I passed everything. Yan Jinyi grabbed the results slip and took a look at it with a solemn expression. After a long while, she nodded and said, yeah, not bad, you deserve to be praised. God knows how hard I've been working during this period of time. I've enrolled in several training classes. Huo Qingyuan stood in place for a long time waiting and waited for Yan Jinyi's answer. Seeing that Yan Jinyi hadn't said anything else, she rubbed her hands and said, second sister-in-law, didn't you say? Yan Jinyi glanced at her. Didn't you say that if I passed all my exams, you would give me a gift? Did I? Yan Jinyi blinked innocently. However, she suddenly felt motherly when she saw how expectant Huo Qingyuan was. Okay, wait a while. I prepared the gift a long time ago, I'll go grab it. Second sister-in-law is so thoughtful. She actually prepared a gift for me such a long time ago. At the thought of the feather duster that Yan Jinyi had gifted to Huo Xishen and the surprise gift that Yan Jinyi had meticulously prepared for her, Huo Qingyuan hurriedly took out her phone and called Huo Xishen. Third brother is such an annoying dog. He always tries to claim credit from second brother. I must let him know who's second sister-in-law's favorite. Huo Xishen happened to be on the way home when he heard Huo Qingyuan telling him that Yan Jinyi had prepared a huge surprise gift for her. Feeling somewhat bitter, he drove faster. When he arrived home, Yan Jinyi came down from upstairs. She was carrying a giant object in her arms, which was wrapped in a bag. Hence, she could not see what it was. Huo Qingyuan's first reaction was, second sister-in-law gave me such a huge gift. Huo Qingyuan, this is a gift for you. Huo Qingyuan ran over to catch it. As soon as she hugged it, she had a peculiar feeling. This feeling. The contour of this object. Huo Xishen was a little jealous. He was clearly older than Huo Qingyuan, why did she get a larger gift? Open it and see, this gift is really cool. I couldn't bear to give it to you. Yan Jinyi urged. Really? In a moment of excitement, Huo Qingyuan opened the bag without hesitation. All of a sudden, she saw a snowy white skeleton. Huo Xishen and Huo Qingyuan turned pale in unison. Second sister-in-law, this. Pointing at the skeleton, Yan Jinyi said, this is the gift for you. Did you see the red circle drawn on it? If you fight with anyone again, hit these spots. I guarantee they'll never get up again. Chapter 159, I have a very weak soul. Chapter 159, I have a very weak soul. Yan Jinyi smiled mirthlessly and asked, why? Don't you like it? Huo Qingyuan shook her head and said, no, I like it very much. This gift is very unique. The uniqueness of it scared the wits out of her. Get Huo Xishen to move it to your room then. I think the spot where the painting in your room is hung is just right. No. After saying that, Huo Qingyuan tried her best to smile and said sheepishly, second sister-in-law, your gift is the most precious. How can I place it outside? I have to preserve it very well. Huo Xishen said gloatingly, don't do that. Second sister-in-law put in effort into giving you this gift, of course she'd want you to put it in a spot that you'll see immediately after you wake up. This is such a good gift, you have to display it where more people can see. Third brother, you're the most annoying. No wonder you can't find a wife as good as second sister-in-law. You seem to like it very much. Why don't I give you one tomorrow? Yan Jinyi asked in an extraordinarily generous manner. Huo Xishen was extremely resistant. I'm timid and I have a weak soul. Tisk tisk, Huo Xishen is too cowardly. On the day of the filming of the program, there were many fans camping in front of the TV station, most of which were fans who supported the idea of Yan Jinyi and Zhuangheng dating each other. It had only been half a month since Yan Jinyi saw Zhuangheng, but he already had a change of hair color. His short hair was dyed a particularly eye-catching blue. Zhuangheng was arguing with his manager at this juncture. My body, soul, and everything belong to Little Pepper. I'd rather die than take pose as another woman's boyfriend for photos. What couple photos? It's just going to be a simple magazine shoot. Zhuang Heng, stop the nonsense. We're shooting for the cover of a renowned international magazine. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Jinyi definitely won't mind. The manager tried to persuade. Zhuang Heng folded his arms and turned his head away with a cold humph. But I do mind. I won't agree unless you swap the female lead with Little Pepper. When Yan Jinyi arrived, she happened to bump into the scene. What are you guys doing? Upon sight of Yan Jinyi, Zhuang Heng immediately rushed over to look at her pitifully. Pointing at his manager, he said, Little Pepper, that damned guy wants me to take couple shots with another woman, but I belong to you, so how can I betray you? Little Pepper, aren't I right? Yan Jinyi pursed her lips and moved further away from Zhuang Heng in disgust. Just take the photos, it's no big deal. Zhuang Heng widened his peach blossom-shaped eyes and looked at Yan Jinyi in disbelief. He raised his hand and pointed it at her shakily, as if he was a poor thing who had been abandoned by his spouse. Little Pepper, you actually want me to take couple photos with another woman? You. Little Pepper, I'm so heartbroken. The crew of female fortress leader had long gotten used to Zhuang Heng's coquettish ways. However, the staff of the TV station were looking at the two of them in horror. They had discovered a huge secret. Jinyi, don't listen to his nonsense. We received an invitation from an internationally famous magazine, and they want Zhuang Heng to shoot for the cover page, but he's dead set against working with a female model. Is she pretty? She's a famous model, so she's definitely pretty. She's Zhuang Heng's fan too. Yan Jinyi looked askance at Zhuang Heng. No matter what, she's at least your fan, don't let her down. Exactly. Did you hear that? Jinyi wants you to go too. It's an internationally acclaimed magazine. Yan Jinyi thought about it and said, is shooting for magazine covers very lucrative? Chapter 160, Boulder being smashed on chest. Chapter 160, Chapter 160, Boulder being smashed on chest. It's not too bad. It depends on the structure and degree of popularity of the magazine. Yan Jinyi was suddenly interested. Will the pay be a 5-figure sum? Of course, it's definitely going to be at least a 5-figure sum. Yan Jinyi turned around resolutely and said, when it's time to start filming, come look for me at the garden. As soon as she left the resting room, she eagerly pulled out her cell phone to call Huo Xishen. Huo Xishen was having a conference. When he saw the caller ID, he picked up the call and stood up. Let's pause here, I'm going to take a call. The group of senior executives looked at each other. Which seductress has bewitched their young master again? Huo Xishen hurriedly picked up the phone, I'm having a meeting, I'm very busy now. Huo Xishen, has a magazine invited me for a photo shoot before? Slightly stunned, Huo Xishen answered, yes, what's the matter? Damn it, tell them that I'm up for the shoot. Huo Xishen asked in shock, huh? If I get offered any magazine shoots again in the future, accept all of them. Yan Jinyi hung up before Huo Xishen could answer. Staring at the phone screen with a frown, Huo Xishen thought, why is Yan Jinyi acting up again? Didn't she say that she wants me to turn down all jobs and casting calls for her? Who's the boss of the company? The filming of the variety show began. It was split into 3 segments, with the first being the creators of the film giving an introduction, followed by a showcase of talent, and then a game session. Zhuang Heng was known for being talentless apart from having some decent acting chops. However, none of his fans minded his lack of talent because of his good looks. Jinyi, what talent are you going to perform for us? The host handed the microphone to Yan Jinyi. Yan Jinyi would never admit that she was a little nervous when facing such a large audience. The only way to conceal her nervousness was to act aloof and distant. With a stern expression on her pretty face, she reached out for the microphone and glanced at the audience. She said coldly, smashing a huge rock on my chest. Thinking that he had heard wrongly, the host rubbed his ears and asked, Jinyi, will you repeat yourself? Glancing at the host coldly, she repeated patiently, smashing a huge rock on my chest. The audience widened their eyes. Do people still believe such stuff these days? Tao Wei thought that Yan Jinyi was joking. Sensing the sudden awkwardness on set, he smiled and said, don't be mistaken by Yan Jinyi's aloofness. She's actually good at cracking lame jokes. Yan Jinyi furrowed her meticulously drawn brows slightly and answered solemnly, I'm not joking. At this moment, Zhuang Heng suddenly applauded. Great. You're indeed my little pepper. Zhuang Heng, you don't have to do that. You can't even smash a rock, let alone a dainty little girl. Yan Jinyi stretched her muscles and said, get me a brick. Seeing how insistent Yan Jinyi was, the host had already thought of a countermeasure, and that was, if Yan Jinyi made a fool out of herself, he would just say that it was a deliberate arrangement to match her role. They soon found the brick and Yan Jinyi rubbed it on her hand before handing it to the host. Let them check it. I don't want them to say that I cheated later. Feeling like he was completely compliant towards Yan Jinyi, the host nodded and said, "Oh, okay." The brick was passed around by the audience before being returned to Yan Jinyi. Glancing at Zhuangheng abruptly, she said, "Lie down on the ground." Zhuangheng blinked his peach blossom-shaped eyes and said with a shy expression, "Little Pepper, we're at a shoot. This isn't appropriate. Hurry up." "Okay." They exclaimed almost in unison. Zhuangheng immediately took off his jacket and laid on the ground. Staring at Yan Jinyi with great anticipation, he said, "Little Pepper, I'm ready." At this moment, all of Zhuangheng's fans who were present thought, Zhuangheng is indeed different. Chapter 161, My Gift to Second Young Mistress Huo. Chapter 161, Chapter 161, My Gift to Second Young Mistress Huo. Yan Jinyi placed the brick in her hand on Zhuangheng's stomach. Seeing this, Zhuangheng's Adam's apple rolled and he said, "Little Pepper, you don't intend to use me as a tool, do you? Aren't you willing?" Zhuangheng closed his eyes and looked like he was ready to die. "It's all right, come on. It's just a brick, it's not going to kill me." Everyone watched as Yan Jinyi squatted down slowly. She suddenly raised her arm, but no one could see her actions clearly. All they heard was a loud thud. The brick on Zhuangheng's stomach instantly split in two. Shivering from head to toe and staring at the debris of the brick on his body, Zhuangheng got up and said, "I knew nothing would go wrong with Little Pepper." Tao Wei and the others stared dumbfounded at the bricks that had been shattered into pieces on the ground and they couldn't help but gulp. Surprisingly, the brick had been smashed. It was a real brick and they wouldn't hesitate to confront anyone who doubted the authenticity of the brick. "That's the end of my performance. Thank you, everyone." Yan Jinyi suddenly bowed to the audience. After being stunned for a long time, the audience finally applauded and gave a standing ovation. "She's truly worthy of playing the role of Lin Kergui. Sister Jinyi, you're so impressive, I love you. Zhuangheng and Sister Jinyi are so compatible. Zhuangheng is like a meek little wife of hers. I'm so scared that my heart is shuddering." The host was squatting right beside the two of them and the debris of the brick almost hit his face. After trying to calm down for a long time, he forced a smile and exclaimed, "Thank you for your performance, Jinyi, it was really interesting. Shouldn't the TV station add an additional clause to the accident insurance?" The filming of the show ended in the evening. As soon as she left the station, Tao Wei hurriedly scurried over to stop her. "Jinyi, have you met second young Mistress Huo lately?" Hearing this, Tao Wei hesitated for a moment with a regretful expression and took out an exquisite jewelry box from his pocket, which he then carefully handed to Yan Jinyi. "Jinyi, this is a gift for second young Mistress Huo, it's a small token of appreciation, please hand it to her. If there's a chance, I hope to cooperate with her again." "A gift?" Yan Jinyi glanced at the box and took it. "You're giving second young Mistress Huo a ring. This box seems to be used for storing a ring." Shivering, Tao Wei shook his head and said, "I don't have a death wish. She's Mr. Huo's wife, why would I dare to gift a ring to her? It's not a ring." Yan Jinyi found it a pity. She had been to the shopping mall with Huo Qingyuan before and knew that the rings sold at jewelry stores were all rather expensive. She couldn't help but open the box, only to see an exquisite and elegant necklace. The pendant was that of a carved red rose. It was tiny and embellished with many small diamonds. "Looks all right. How is it? I specially picked this out myself. I wonder if second young Mistress Huo will like it?" Tao Wei rubbed his hands and grinned sheepishly. Yan Jinyi looked up and asked, "How much did you spend on this?" "More than 100,000. Well, you know I." Before Tao Wei finished, Yan Jinyi closed the box shut smilingly and said, "Don't worry, Director Tao, second young Mistress Huo will definitely like this. I heard Huo Zihang mentioning that she likes the color red." "Huo Zihang? Third young Master Huo?" Tao Wei began to look at Yan Jinyi peculiarly, thinking to herself, Jinyi does have something going on with Huo Zihang. Ah, poor Zhuangheng. After receiving the surprise gift, Yan Jinyi was in a particularly good mood. When she returned to the Huo family's mansion, she surprisingly discovered that there were a few more servants at home. At this moment, they were busy setting up the garden while Zhang Qiuquan was standing at the side with a book and giving them instructions. "Zhang Qiuquan, what are you guys doing?" Hearing Yan Jinyi's voice, Zhang Qiuquan's legs turned weak and he said, "Second young mistress, you're back. We are setting up the venue for old master's birthday banquet." Chapter 162, You're looking at sister-in-law so lewdly. Chapter 162, Chapter 162, You're looking at sister-in-law so lewdly. Zhang Qiuquan pointed inside the mansion and said, "Young mistress returned home in the afternoon and is now planning the birthday banquet." "Young mistress? Huo Qinjiao's wife. This couple is amazing." It's only been such a short period of time since Huo Xishen left. Yan Jinyi had heard that the married couple was rather courteous and distant with each other. Yan Jinyi casually picked 2 roses and swaggered into the villa. As soon as she entered, she saw a young woman seated on the sofa beside Huo Xishen. The slender woman was wearing a long, dark green dress with her hair tied back into a high ponytail on the back of her head. Her small, dainty earrings accentuated the slenderness of her delicate neck. She was holding a notebook in her hand, scribbling and doodling on it with her head slightly lowered. Her thick, curled lashes cast a light shadow below her eyes. She was graceful, elegant, and gentle. The point was, she was gorgeous. Touching her chin, Yan Jinyi smiled sweetly and said, "You must be sister-in-law, I've heard about you a long time ago." Shen Yan subconsciously looked up and saw a stunningly beautiful girl striding towards her. Without hesitation, she held onto Yan Jinyi's hand and shook it. "You are." Yan Jinyi blinked and answered, "Yan Jinyi, Huo Xishen's wife for the time being." It suddenly dawned on Shen Yan that Yan Jinyi was her sister-in-law. When Huo Xishen got married, she happened to be abroad and couldn't make it back home. She only returned home every now and then, but Yan Jinyi used to hide and avoid others. Hence, they never had the chance to meet each other. It was her first time meeting Huo Xishen's wife. She's a charming beauty. Unfortunately, Xishen doesn't seem to like her very much. Smiling gently, Shen Yan placed the notebook on the coffee table and got up to look at Yan Jinyi. "Jinyi, nice to meet you." The ravishing beauty before her reminded Yan Jinyi of the elegant heiress whom she had teased before when she was a bandit. She had always found delicate beauties like Shen Yan who invoked one's protectiveness, to be incredibly attractive. "Hello, sister-in-law, how old are you this year?" Shen Yan did not respond immediately. With a look of bewilderment, she asked, "Huh? Sister-in-law, how old are you this year?" Shen Yan's eyes were shaped like almonds. Whenever Yan Jinyi made eye contact with her watery eyes, she would feel an urge to protect Shen Yan. She originally thought that all the women in the Huo family would be spoiled, bratty wastrels like Huo Xishen, but to her surprise, Shen Yan was a dainty beauty. Yan Jinyi helped Shen Yan to her seat dramatically and said, "Sister-in-law, when did you come back? Why didn't you inform me? I could have gotten the cooks to cook something that you like to eat." Seeing how enthusiastic Yan Jinyi was, Shen Yan felt a little awkward. She smiled faintly and said, "I'm not hungry yet." "Sister-in-law, you don't need to be so polite, we are a family." Being born to a famous family of literati, Shen Yan had always been exposed to literature since a young age. Having attended more than 10 years of etiquette lessons, she also had poised and elegant mannerisms. Yan Jinyi suddenly felt that she was being too boorish and thought that she would definitely scare Shen Yan by acting that way. "Sister-in-law, are you thirsty? Shall I pour you some water?" "No need, sister-in-law, there is really no need to be so polite with me. I'm 27 years old this year, coincidentally, I'm the same age as Zihang." Yan Jinyi nodded and said, "I'm 22 years old." "Sister-in-law, just call me Jinyi, that'd be more affectionate." Huo Xishen looked at the scene before her in confusion. Has second sister-in-law been possessed by some demon? Why is she acting so differently in front of sister-in-law? "Second sister-in-law, you're looking at sister-in-law so lecherously." "Second sister-in-law, I'm here, hurry and look at me." Chapter 163, Second sister-in-law has changed. Chapter 163, Chapter 163, Second sister-in-law has changed. "Sister-in-law, you've just returned to the nation, right? It's been a long journey. My massage skills are great. Why don't I massage your shoulders for you?" Hearing this, Huo Xishen shuddered and thought, second sister-in-law is going to massage her shoulders. Sister-in-law's delicate body can't withstand your ravages. Yan Jinyi was still trying to please Shen Yan and she looked like a frivolous bandit who was teasing an obedient girl. Huo Xishen took out her cell phone sneakily and sent a text message to Huo Zihang. "Third brother, second sister-in-law became a whole different person after sister-in-law returned. Hurry up, come home and take a look." The luxurious outdoor swimming pool was crowded with handsome men and women. The rhythmic music was deafening, and waitresses who were dressed up as bunny girls walked through the crowd with trays of wine. Huo Zihang leaned back on a beach chair, surrounded by sexy women. "Third young master, I really haven't seen you for a long time, I miss you so much." "Third young master, are the rumors of you and that actress true?" "Third young master, I missed you so much that I've lost weight. You have to make it up to me." It was a party thrown by a rich heir and the guests were mostly social media influencers and models, in addition to the heirs of wealthy families. In fact, there were also a few young actors of the entertainment industry who were currently famous. As the son of the Huo family, Huo Zihang would be the center of attention wherever he went. Zhao Xingkan was walking over with a model. When he saw Huo Zihang, he couldn't help but stop in his tracks and mock, Third young master Huo, you're pretty popular. You're surrounded by so many beauties. Just a little more popular than you. Zhao Xingkan fell silent with a sullen expression. You just have an impressive sister-in-law. What are you being so smug for? I'm Sister Jinyi's underling now too. Besides, Sister Jinyi didn't even rope you in to invest in the film with her. When he thought of it that way, Zhao Xingkan felt a boost in mood. Third young master Huo, haven't you already changed your ways? Why are you still attending such a gathering? Huo Xishen took off his sunglasses and glanced at Zhao Xingkan with displeasure. I like it, it's none of your business. Zhao Xingkan really wanted to get into a fight with Huo Xishen, but he was afraid that Yan Jinyi might defend the latter. Life is hard. At this moment, Huo Xishen's cell phone began to ring. Huo Xishen unlocked his cell phone impatiently and soon saw the text from Huo Qingyuan. Sister-in-law is back. Yan Jinyi started acting strangely. He sprung up from the beach chair, scratched his head, and thought, sister-in-law is so delicate and vulnerable. Yan Jinyi couldn't have hit her, right? No, I have to go home to take a look. Third young master Huo, where are you going? I'm going to perform especially for you later. Huo Xishen pushed away the sexy woman who rushed towards him and said disgustedly, get lost. Who are you to spoil my body? He then left especially indifferently. The group of women looked at each other. Has Huo Xishen changed completely? Didn't they say that all beautiful women will gain his favor? Didn't they say that it's easy to get his money? Huo Xishen panicked and rushed home quickly, for fear that the women at home would get into a heated fight. In the end, as soon as he entered, he saw Yan Jinyi holding up a tray of fruit and a fork in one hand. With a wide grin, she said, sister-in-law, I'll feed you any fruit you'd like. Huo Qingyuan was watching them at the side with a deadpan expression. Jinyi, I can do it myself. Grandpa's birthday banquet is a major event, but I can't do much to help. Sister-in-law, you must let me fulfill the duty of feeding you some fruit. With a look of helplessness, Shen Yan said, Jinyi, have you prepared Grandpa's gift? Yan Jinyi blinked in confusion and asked, must I prepare a gift for him too? Chapter 164, When have you ever borrowed money from me? Chapter 164, Chapter 164, When have you ever borrowed money from me? Shen Yan smiled particularly tenderly as she looked Yan Jinyi in the eye and said, Grandpa likes you very much, I think he will like the gift that you give him too. That old man likes the former Yan Jinyi, what does it have to do with me? I'm just a poor female bandit who's being exploited to no end by my evil husband despite being penniless. I don't have any money. With a pitiful expression, Yan Jinyi reached her hand out to swing Shen Yan's sleeve. Sister-in-law, that dog Huo Xishen terminated my black card. Nowadays, when I go out, I have to borrow money from Huo Xishen to pay for my cab fare. I don't have any money to get a gift for Grandpa. Yan Jinyi, are you out of your mind? When have you ever borrowed money from me? Aren't the box office sales of your film very high? Also, stop being so pretentious, it's irking me. Huo Xishen roared in his heart. Seeing how pitiful Yan Jinyi was, Shen Yan sighed secretly as she didn't expect her sister-in-law to have such a tough life. When she heard that Huo Xishen had been mistreating Yan Jinyi, Shen Yan somehow thought of herself and her clear, bright eyes gradually became dim. She smiled and held Yan Jinyi's hand in hers. Jinyi, you can tell me if you have any problems in the future. There's an auction in the city tomorrow night and I was intending to go to the auction and see if I can get a gift for Grandpa. Come with me, if you see anything you like, you can let me know and I'll help you get it. How does that sound? Ah, she's indeed worthy of being a gentle and likable beauty. Sister-in-law is an angel. Yan Jinyi suddenly grinned widely and said, Sister-in-law, you treat me so well, I really don't know how to repay you. Why don't I give myself to you in return? Huo Qingyuan shivered while Huo Xishen's eyes widened. Shen Yan looked surprised too. Yan Jinyi tried her best to recall the tone of voice of the Prime Minister's daughter that she had teased in her previous life. She then looked at Shen Yan with tears in her eyes and her chin trembling. Sobbingly, she asked, Sister-in-law, are you despising me? Yan Jinyi is really out of her mind. Knowing that Yan Jinyi was an actress, Shen Yan simply took it that she was just acting and pulling her leg. Okay, I know you are good at acting. Go change out of your clothes first and come down for dinner. Qingyuan showed me some snippets of that film you starred in just now, your acting is really superb. This beauty is so charming even when she's praising me. Actually, there are advantages to being Huo Xishen's wife. Unfortunately, I'm not a man, or else. Before Yan Jinyi prepared to go upstairs, she suddenly thought of something and turned around. Looking at Shen Yan particularly solemnly, she said, Sister-in-law, if Huo Qingyue mistreats you, feel free to tell me about it. I'll help you teach him a lesson and send him to your room so that you can take revenge and torture him. Huo Xishen secretly heaved a sigh of relief and thought, right, this is what second sister-in-law is supposed to be like. The auction was held in a famous clubhouse in Shenyang, which was exclusively meant for auctions. The organizer of the auction was Tang Cheng. The clubhouse was Tang Cheng's turf too. Jinyi knew that the Tang family and Huo family were at odds, and they would usually stay away from each other, but she didn't expect Shen Yan, the dainty and weak beauty, to have the guts to appear on Tang Cheng's turf. However, Jinyi was fortunately going to protect her. The people there were all from the top wealthiest families of the city, and Shen Yan, the eldest daughter-in-law of the Huo family, had every right to be there. A lot of people knew who she was. In the dimly lit office, Tang Cheng leaned lazily on the sofa, with a cigarette in his mouth. Mr. Tang, Shen Yan, the daughter-in-law of the Huo family, is also here. She brought someone with her, who seems to be second young mistress Huo, who has been very popular recently. Chapter 165, A Bangle from Black Cloud Fortress. Chapter 165, Chapter 165, A Bangle from Black Cloud Fortress. Tang Cheng stood up from the sofa and spat the cigarette in his mouth into the ashtray. Did you just say that Huo Xishen's wife is here too? Yes, I just passed by Shen Yan and I heard her introducing the lady beside her as second young mistress Huo. The women of the Huo family really don't take me seriously anymore, do they? How dare they come running to my territory? There was still more than half an hour to go before the auction would begin, so Jinyi and Shen Yan were resting in the lounge. Jinyi, the items that are being put on auction this time are special. They were all sent here by the wives and daughters of affluent men, but most of them are treasured paintings and calligraphy. Grandpa is quite interested in those things. Auction items sent over by the wives of affluent men. Jinyi thought about it and asked, Sister-in-law, am I considered the wife of an affluent man? Shen Yan did not expect Jinyi to suddenly ask that question. With a nod of her head she answered, the Huo family is the top wealthy family, you are naturally the wife of a wealthy man. In fact, she was considered one of the top few wives. Jinyi was glad to be part of the upper-class society. Can I put something up for auction too? Of course you can, it shouldn't be too late to register now. Soon, the person in charge was called over. Tang Cheng came down from upstairs just in time to see the manager of the auction walking over with a tray. Wait, what's that? Upon sight of Tang Cheng, the person in charge immediately bowed respectfully and said, Hello, Mr. Tang, this is an item that second young mistress Huo is putting up for auction. Second young mistress Huo's auction item. Tang Cheng raised his brows curiously and lifted the silk cloth on the tray without uttering another word, only to see a wooden bangle. What on earth is this? Mr. Tang, second young mistress Huo said that this is a magical bangle that was produced in the Black Cloud Fortress and can ward off evil spirits to ensure peace of the wearer. She hesitated for a long time before deciding to put it up for auction. Since she can't bear to part with her bangle, don't put it up for auction. How much is she asking for that lousy thing? The person in charge coughed and answered, the starting bid is 200,000 yuan. It's just a wooden bangle and she's asking for 200,000 yuan. Is it made of some rare wood? Second young mistress Huo said that this bangle is made of wood that contains the essence of the sun and moon after a full 100 years of absorption in the Black Cloud Fortress. Since it's from second young mistress Huo, it's definitely an extraordinary item. So, what exactly is the Black Cloud Fortress? Tang Cheng looked at the tightly closed door of the lounge. Jinyi and Shen Yan happened to be getting ready to go out. The moment they pulled open the door, they almost knocked into Tang Cheng. With a frown on her pretty face, Jinyi hollered, which lunatic is this? Don't you know this is a place for women to rest? Tang Cheng was bewildered. Since when has the room that I use to receive VIPs, become a resting place that is exclusive to women? Shen Yan had already recognized Tang Cheng. She pulled Jinyi up, and nodded at him with a dignified smile on his face. Mr. Tang, it's been long since we met. Tang Cheng had been keeping his gaze fixed on Jinyi. He recognized that woman to be the female lead of Female Fortress Leader, and he had even watched the video of her hitting Lin Chenggong. That was the film that caused him to feel the most humiliated he had ever been in his life. A failed investment in a film was not a novel thing, but the idiotic netizens compared Islander to Female Fortress Leader, thus making the entire crew and Tang Cheng himself a laughing stock. What is this woman doing with Shen Yan? Tang Cheng subconsciously looked into the room to see that there was no one else, so was this woman, who indirectly caused him to be mocked by others, Huo Xishen's wife whom he married some time ago. Chapter 166, Turns out Mr. Tang is so rich. Chapter 166, Chapter 166, Turns out Mr. Tang is so rich. Jinyi was sizing up Tang Cheng too. She didn't have a good impression of him. The fact that he had invested in Islander was the reason that she had to force herself to bite the bullet and ask Huo Qingyuan and Zhao Xingkan to invest. Huo Qingyuan's card got terminated by Huo Xishen. Huo Xishen is a sly, cunning, and unsympathetic dog. Tan Qing is a bastard who specially creates trouble for me. Are you second young mistress Huo? Tan Qing pointed at Yan Jinyi. Why are you asking the obvious? She really is. Is the female lead of female fortress leader second young mistress Huo? Huo Xishen actually made his wife act in a romantic film alongside another man. I take my hats off to him for his magnanimity. Tan Qing squinted and said, second young mistress Huo, you're appearing so brazenly on my turf and you let me find out your identity. Aren't you afraid that I'll expose you? Not feeling threatened by him at all, Yan Jinyi said, if you're a man, don't be a blabbermouth. It's not an embarrassing thing to be second young mistress Huo. If you expose my identity, everyone will be afraid of me. What's so bad about that? Tan Qing noticed the gusto in her voice as he stared at Yan Jinyi's pretty face. It was the first time a woman dared to talk to him in such an assertive and masculine manner. Facing Tan Qing's blatant gaze, Yan Jinyi was displeased and was about to speak when Shen Yan stepped forward to stand in between them. Mr. Tang, what do you mean? Is the Huo family not allowed to attend your auction? Tan Qing was rather amazed by Shen Yan, who had married Huo Xinjiao because of business relations. Albeit Huo Xinjiao's indifference towards her, she still put her heart and soul into managing the affairs of the Huo family. Young mistress, you're making it sound too serious. Why would I dare to stop the Huo family members from entering? As he spoke, he looked at Yan Jinyi again. I'm just curious about why second young mistress Huo wants to put that wooden bangle up for auction. What are you curious for? I'm curious about the origin of that wooden bangle. It looks like it was carved out of ordinary wood carved, but there must be something outstanding about it to be worth the price of 200,000 yuan. Shen Yan couldn't help but look at Yan Jinyi. When Yan Jinyi took out the wooden bangle and was about to put it up for auction, she stood against it. With a mysterious smile, Yan Jinyi asked, Mr. Tang, are you very curious about the origin of my bangle? Tan Qing nodded. It has a significant origin. I promise you'll get a great shock after hearing it, Mr. Tang. Tan Qing had to admit that Yan Jinyi had already completely aroused his curiosity. He bent forward slightly to move his handsome face close to Yan Jinyi's in a bid to charm her with his good looks. Yan Jinyi glanced at him sultrily with watery eyes, looking absolutely gorgeous. Tan Qing's Adam's apple bobbed and he said, second young mistress Huo, go ahead and tell me how shocking it is. Do you want to know? Yan Jinyi suddenly stopped smiling and took a step back expressionlessly. Mr. Tang, if you want to know, just buy the bangle. When the auction is over, I'll tell you the origin of the bangle, how does that sound? She wants me to spend 200,000 yuan on a wooden bangle. Yan Jinyi continued, oh, I forgot that you're a pauper, Mr. Tang. You can't even afford 2,000 yuan, let alone 200,000. Tan Qing exclaimed with a sullen expression, who said that? I'm not any poorer than Huo Xishen. That dog Huo Xishen is so stingy. He definitely has a considerable sum of savings. How can you compare to him? Wow, turns out you're so rich, Mr. Tang. Yan Jinyi applauded and continued, Mr. Tang, you must buy the bangle during the auction then. No matter how expensive it might be, you must buy it. Or else, you'll definitely regret. Chapter 167, You're stingier than Huo Xishen. Chapter 167, Chapter 167, You're stingier than Huo Xishen. Tan Qing knew that she was just trying to agitate him. He was really curious about the origins of the wooden bangle. Mr. Tang, you're very wealthy and you're not a petty miser like Huo Xishen. You definitely will buy the bangle at all costs. Yan Jinyi continued to tempt him. Is Huo Xishen very petty and stingy? Tan Qing was a little surprised and he felt that he had touched a blind spot as he actually heard Huo Xishen's wife say that he was stingy. It seems that Huo Xishen doesn't really treat this woman very well. Tan Qing tugged his necktie and raised his chin a little before saying arrogantly, of course, I'm definitely more generous than Huo Xishen. Yan Jinyi gave him a thumbs up and then pulled Shen Yan away without looking back. The auction venue was already crowded with people of the upper-class society of the city. As members of the Huo family, Yan Jinyi and Shen Yan were seated in the first row, with Tan Qing seated only a meter away from them. The first item that was put up for auction happened to be Yan Jinyi's bangle, and they wondered if Tan Qing had deliberately made that arrangement. This wooden bangle is made of wood from a 500-year-old tree in Black Cloud Fortress and has a rejuvenating effect. It has been consecrated by a famous master to ward off evil and drive away bad luck. The auctioneer pompously introduced the bangle, leaving Yan Jinyi dumbfounded. Why don't I know that the wooden bangle that the crew bought for a few yuan for the filming has such an impressive historical background? She had merely taken it away casually. The starting bid is 200,000 yuan. The auction begins now. The people in the audience looked at each other thinking to themselves that the bangle was definitely not worth 200,000 yuan, and that only a fool would buy them. After a long time, No one raised the sign. Yan Jinyi looked at Tang Qing with displeasure. Tang Qing crossed his legs and placed his hands on the back of his head, as if the matter didn't concern him at all. How dare that rogue Tang Qing embarrass me? Outrageous. Jinyi, why don't I? I must make Tang Qing spend a large sum of money today. Yan Jinyi raised her sign and said, 210,000 yuan. After she said that, everyone turned to look at her. Who is that? How come I haven't seen her before? She's quite pretty and she seemed elegant too. She should be the daughter of a certain wealthy family, right? The one sitting next to her looks a bit like the Huo family's daughter-in-law. I never got the chance to meet young Mistress Huo. After placing her bid, Yan Jinyi slowly looked down at Tang Qing. Tang Qing happened to look over and Yan Jinyi raised her eyebrows as she slowly gave him a thumbs up. She mouthed the words, "You're stingier than Huo Xishen." Tang Qing's handsome face became sullen when he understood what was going on. Huo Xishen was his #1 rival and he hated being compared to Huo Xishen the most. Outrageous. He raised the sign without hesitation and said, 250,000 yuan. Satisfied with his action, Yan Jinyi continued to raise her sign. 250,000.50. There must be something wrong with Yan Jinyi's brains. Others obviously won't buy this bangle. I'm only offering 250,000 yuan for her sake. Slightly angered, Tang Qing glared at Yan Jinyi with displeasure. Yan Jinyi continued to look at him alluringly and said in a clear and sweet voice, I didn't expect Mr. Tang to like this bangle too. I'm forced to compete with you. Damn it, I can't let her label me as a miser. Otherwise, I'd be thoroughly embarrassed. Gritting his teeth, Tang Qing raised his sign again. 400,000. 400,000.50. 450,000. The crowd watched as Tang Qing and Yan Jinyi competed for the bangle. But what's wrong with that woman? Why does she only raise the price by 50 cents every time she places her bid? Is she that stingy? Chapter 168, Anyone who vies with me is going against me. Chapter 168, Chapter 168, Anyone who vies with me is going against me. When the price of the bangle reached 1 million yuan, some people in the crowd secretly thought to themselves, it seems that Mr. Tang is really fond of that wooden bangle, is there something extraordinary about it? At this moment, a middle-aged man who was almost bald raised his sign and said, 1.1 million. This bangle is definitely extraordinary, otherwise how could someone as shrewd as Tang Qing place such a crazy bid? After the middle-aged man spoke, many other people began to place bids. Yan Jinyi returned the bidding sign to Shen Yan and kept quiet. However, she glanced at Tang Qing sultrily, making him get the goosebumps. Tang Qing stood up abruptly and said, 2 million, anyone who dares to vie with me is going against me. The group of people who had been whispering instantly shut up. As expected of a rogue origin, Tang Qing had quite a bit of potential for being Yan Jinyi's underling. Selling something that's worth a few yuan for 2 million yuan is such a good deal. Rubbing her chin with one hand, Yan Jinyi glanced at the venue, thinking to herself that it was a lucrative job that would bring her massive riches. Jinyi, you're really something, you managed to make Mr. Tang spend 2 million for nothing. Shen Yan couldn't help but be amazed. No wonder Qing Yuan couldn't stop praising Jinyi. She's indeed very impressive to be able to make Tang Qing spend money. Yan Jinyi smiled sweetly and said, Sister-in-law, you flatter me. That was simple. Tang Qing and Huo Xishen were at odds against each other. As long as he had a chance to make himself seem more impressive than Huo Xishen, he would definitely seize it. However, Tang Qing's behavior made everyone present even more curious about the true origin of the wooden bangle. Shen Yan bought a famous sculpture that was carved by a famous carver of the ancient times, as a gift for old Master Tang. Jinyi, did anything catch your eye? Yan Jinyi was in a good mood because she managed to earn 2 million yuan from Tang Qing for no reason. No. Actually, the jade Buddha statue that Mrs. Zhang put up just now is quite good. It's not bad, but the only flaw is that it's too expensive. The jade Buddha statue costs more than 500,000 yuan. She felt that Huo Qinjiao's golden skull was better than the jade Buddha statue. Jinyi, are you worried that I didn't bring enough money? Yan Jinyi blinked at Shen Yan and said, that item is not worth spending your money on. Just as she said that, the lady serving at the auctioneer put a painting on display. It was about a meter wide and in the painting, there was a tiger lying on the ground. Its eyes had been especially drawn to look extraordinarily realistic. Most importantly, the starting bid of the painting was 100,000 yuan, making it the cheapest item of the auction so far. This painting was sent by the Fu family. All the proceeds from this item will be donated to the children living in the mountains as a public service initiative. The Fu family. Yan Jinyi had a vague impression of them, and she knew that they were one of the so-called top powerful families in the city. Unfortunately, she didn't like their surname. Sister-in-law, I'll take that painting. To her surprise, Tan Qing had also taken a fancy to that painting, and as soon as Shen Yan placed her bid, Tan Qing began doing so too. 150,000 yuan. 200,000 yuan. 250,000 yuan. Seeing that the price of the painting was about to go up to 1 million yuan, Yan Jinyi glared daggers at Tan Qing and mocked, "I didn't expect the CEO of Tang Group to be so ungentlemanly as to compete with a vulnerable woman." Tan Qing's hand stiffened as he held up the sign. "What's wrong with that? I just want to bid for a painting that I like. How is that ungentlemanly? Second young mistress Huo, you're exaggerating things. The items sold at auctions are meant to be bought by the highest bidder. I like that painting so I want to buy it. Isn't that normal?" Chapter 169, Beware, I might send you back to the past. Chapter 169, Chapter 169, Beware, I might send you back to the past. Second young mistress. Which family does she belong to? The crowd suddenly remembered that the lady in the yellow dress that someone said was elegant just now, seemed to be young mistress Huo, so. The one bidding with Tan Qing is the wife of second young master Huo. No wonder she dared to clamor in front of Tan Qing. No wonder Tan Qing wants to be with her. Everyone knew the hostility and animosity between Huo Xishen and Tan Qing. "Mr. Tang, is your grandfather still alive and well?" Tan Qing frowned and looked at Yan Jinyi with suspicion. What is she asking about that old man for? He's alive and kicking, unfortunately. Yan Jinyi nodded and said, "Ah, indeed, it's unfortunate that he has an unfilial grandson like you. Fortunately, he's still alive, otherwise, he'd jump out of his grave because of you." Tan Qing was infuriated. "What do you mean? Is she trying to say that I'm unfilial?" Yan Jinyi waved her hands innocently and looked at Shen Yan regretfully. "Sister-in-law, it seems we can't give grandpa that gift anymore. Mr. Tang is unfilial and unsympathetic. He insists on vying with me. Not only is he ungentlemanly, he lacks compassion too." Tan Qing gritted his teeth loudly and thought, how dare this woman insult me on my territory? She must have a death wish. Xishen is at least still filial towards grandpa. That's one attribute of his that's better than you. At this point, Yan Jinyi shook her head and said, "Sister-in-law, let's go." With a pale face, Tan Qing stopped Yan Jinyi with huge displeasure. "Second young mistress Huo, since you like it, I won't compete with you for it. You may take it." Yan Jinyi didn't answer and instead slowly took out an invitation card from her bag. "I wanted to invite you actually. Mr. Tang, if you pay for the item too, take this invitation card and come attend grandpa's birthday banquet. Yan Jinyi wants to invite me to old master Huo's birthday banquet." The Huo Group and Tang Corporation were at odds against each other and it was rare for Tan Qing and Huo Xishen to even appear at the same place. Yet, she was inviting him to the territory of the Huo family. The thought of it alone got him really excited. Tan Qing grinned sinisterly and said, "I'll buy this painting for old master Huo then. I'll take it as a little token from me. Mr. Tang is not really going to attend master Huo's birthday party, is he?" Yan Jinyi's eyebrows twitched and she walked over with tiny steps to hand the invitation to Tan Qing. "Thank you on behalf of grandpa, Mr. Tang. Also." With a cold gaze in her eyes, her smile stiffened and she inched closer to Tan Qing to the point that they could only hear each other. "You're a rogue and coincidentally, I'm a bandit. Do you know what bandits do? They specialize in murder and arson. You were nothing when I started being a bandit. If you look down on me, be careful, I might give you a huge beating immediately." She remembered what Tan Qing had said during the interview previously. "He looked down on me, huh?" Tan Qing snapped back to his senses only after Yan Jinyi left. This woman is so damn wild. She's just like a wild feline. Where did Huo Xishen get this treasure from? Tan Qing's affiliation with the triads and his bad temper made everyone in the city scared to provoke him. Huo Xishen was an exception. But now, even Huo Xishen's wife had the guts to assert dominance over him. The secretary went forward cautiously and said, "Mr. Tang, the money has been paid. Do you want to attend old Mr. Huo's birthday banquet?" Tan Qing suddenly laughed and said, "Yes, why not? Right, that woman hasn't told me about the origin of that bangle." Chapter 170, I'm the last person you should trust. Chapter 170, Chapter 170, I'm the last person you should trust. Go and stop that woman for me. Tan Qing suddenly ordered, after which the secretary hurriedly nodded and rushed out of the venue. Yan Jinyi and Shen Yan had just collected the items they bought at the auction. "Jinyi, you're pretty awesome, you made Tan Qing break the bank twice." Yan Jinyi said casually, "Mr. Tang is handsome and kind, I can't help it if he wants to pay." Shen Yan had a gut feeling that Yan Jinyi seemed to have a feud with Tan Qing, to be precise, it seemed that Tan Qing had offended Yan Jinyi. Grandpa usually likes to collect famous paintings. This painting that you picked is great, I believe Grandpa will like it? I don't care if he likes it or not. I didn't have to pay anyway. Jinyi seemed to be the big winner of the auction this time. Not only did she earn 2 million yuan for nothing, she even got Qing to pay for old Master Huo's gift. While chatting and giggling with Shenyan and getting ready to get inside the car, a few men in black suddenly dashed over to surround the two of them. Seeing this, Shenyan frowned and said with some austerity in her tone, "What are you trying to do?" Qing's secretary soon rushed over and bowed to the two of them respectfully. "Young Mistress Huo, second young Mistress Huo, Mr. Tang still has some things to ask the two of you. We'll have to hold you back a little. Please wait a moment before you leave." Shenyan looked at Jinyi and placed the gift back inside the car after Jinyi nodded. Qing had already removed his blazer and was now wearing a white shirt with 2 buttons unbuttoned. Their rosary necklace he was wearing around his neck was completely exposed. He had a cigarette in his mouth and his hands in the pockets of his trousers, looking extremely roguish. "Mr. Tang, is there anything else?" Qing looked at young mistress and snubbed the cigarette butt. "Second young Mistress Huo, you seem to have forgotten something. Can you tell me the origin of the bangle?" Jinyi stifled a yawn lazily and said, "Oh, the crew bought it casually from a roadside stall. The bangle matches your aura. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to bring myself to put it up for auction." Qing's face turned sullen. "From the roadside stall? I spent 2 million yuan on an item from the roadside stall. What does she mean it matches my aura? Is she trying to say that I'm on the same level as a good from a roadside stall?" Glancing at her sinisterly, he said, "Woman, you have 3 seconds to apologize." She has the cheek to ask why. Qing burst into laughter and said, "How dare you put an item from the roadside stall up for auction? You even cheated me out of 2 million yuan, you bastard. If you apologize, I won't hold it against you. Otherwise." Qing squinted and began moving his limbs. Hearing this, Shenyan's face immediately turned pale. Qing was known for being a rogue and he would never hesitate to hit anyone who provoked him, even if she was a woman. Jinyi shielded Shenyan behind her without showing any signs of panic. "Mr. Tang, did you forget that you agreed to buy it on your own accord? Also, since when have I lied to you? Did I ever say that this bangle is extremely valuable? It's just a bangle from the roadside stall. Why did you boast that it was from the Black Cloud Fortress?" Jinyi answered solemnly, "Yeah, it's from the Black Cloud Fortress. That's the name of my room. I wore this bangle in my room. Doesn't that make the origin of this bangle the Black Cloud Fortress?" Qing's face grew even more sullen. "Didn't you say that it was from a 500-year-old tree? That was a wild guess. Trust you to believe it?" As she spoke, Jinyi rolled her eyes at Qing. He was at a loss for words for a rebuttal. "Maybe, you haven't gone around to ask about me. Mr. Tang, I'm the last person you should trust." "I'm really not trustworthy, Mr. Tang," Jinyi exclaimed with a helpless expression. Chapter 171, Yes, I'm poor. Chapter 171, Chapter 171, Yes, I'm poor. It was the first time he had seen such an evil person who deceived him. Qing felt that Jinyi was too difficult to deal with. What kind of an oddball did Huo Xishen marry? "Second young Mistress Huo, are you very short of money? Why does it seem like you are quite strapped for cash?" While being poked, Jinyi's face turned sullen as she was displeased. "Yeah, I'm poor, so what? Mr. Tang, do you plan to generously sponsor me and give me some money? How can Huo Xishen's daughter-in-law be poor?" Qing suddenly remembered that Jinyi seemed to have said that Huo Xishen was stingy previously. So does he really mistreat his wife? Seeing the infuriation on Jinyi's face, Qing laughed meanly and jibed, "Tisk, Mr. Huo is making money every day, his wife doesn't even have money to buy anything at an auction. He's too unkind and heartless. Second young Mistress Huo, since your husband treats you so poorly, why don't you just divorce him?" Hearing this, Shenyan glared at Qing threateningly and said, "Mr. Tang, please mind your words." Qing shrugged his shoulders. Jinyi suddenly smiled sweetly. "Sure, we can get a divorce. Mr. Tang, will you provide for me?" Qing was stunned to see her smile and he thought, this woman's smile is so damn charming. "Second young Mistress Huo, if you get divorced and find it hard to get by, I won't mind giving you some financial support, but since you have the ability to make Tao Wei's film rise to fame, I believe you also have the ability to make money. Aren't you very capable? You cheated me out of 3 million yuan. Earning my own money is not as interesting as being a kept woman." Jinyi stepped forward and placed a hand on Qing's shoulder. Casting him a sultry gaze, she said, "Don't you think so, Mr. Tang?" Staring at Jinyi's face from a close distance, Qing's heart skipped a beat. Is Yan Jinyi asking to be my kept woman? Making Huo Xishen's woman my sugar baby? Mr. Tang, we'll see you at the birthday banquet in a few days. Yan Jinyi blew him another kiss and got inside the car, twisting her hips. Tang Qing finally snapped back to his senses only when the red car zoomed away. I was actually teased by Huo Xishen's wife. As old Master Huo's birthday banquet drew closer, all the people who lived in the Huo family estate got incredibly busy. Yan Jinyi was probably the most relaxed one. It was the day of the broadcast of the variety show that she was featured in. After dinner, Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan sat on the sofa, keeping their eyes fixed on the television. According to the information leaked by the netizens, Yan Jinyi showcased her talent on the show. Yan Jinyi didn't have any talent other than being sharp-tongued and good at fighting. Surely she wouldn't fight and argue with others on the show, right? Usually, Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan would go out to meet their friends whenever they had free time. Shen Yan discovered that the two of them seemed to have been acting differently the past few days. It was rare to see them at home, but lately, she had been seeing them every day and they would sensibly go home after school and work every day. What are you guys looking at? Huo Qingyuan pulled Shen Yan down to the seat and said, the variety show that second sister-in-law is featured in is going to be aired soon. I heard that there's going to be a talent showcase segment. Sister-in-law, do you want to go with me? Jinyi is filming a variety show. She has a personal talent too. Shen Yan was interested too and handed the remaining tasks to Zhang Qiuquan. Sure, let's watch it together. It was finally the start of the variety show. Hearing the merry tune, Yan Jinyi went over with her snacks. After the first segment and a series of advertisements, it was finally Yan Jinyi's turn to shine. The host was looking at her benevolently and saying, Jinyi, what talent do you wish to showcase next? Chapter 172, Sister-in-law seems to be good at martial arts. Chapter 172, Chapter 172, Sister-in-law seems to be good at martial arts. Yan Jinyi grabbed the microphone expressionlessly and answered coldly, breaking a brick on someone's chest. Huo Zihang thought, I didn't see that coming. Huo Qingyuan thought, second sister-in-law is so impressive, she even stands out from others when it comes to showcasing her talent and performing. Shen Yan thought, sister-in-law seems to be good at martial arts. Yan Jinyi really got someone to bring a brick to the stage, which she then broke on the poor Zhuangheng's chest. The three of them stared at the TV screen attentively and even Zhang Qiuquan and the maids in the house stopped what they were doing. Yan Jinyi seemed to have effortlessly smashed the brick on Zhuangheng's chest and it broke just like that. It broke into bits. Everyone in the house inhaled sharply. They didn't know if others believed that Yan Jinyi could break a brick on someone's chest or not, but they knew that Yan Jinyi was really capable of doing that. Yan Jinyi knew other martial arts techniques that were even more profound. It was really not a joke. If there was an apocalypse, Yan Jinyi might save the world. All of a sudden, Yan Jinyi said coldly, I've embarrassed myself. Jinyi's talent is really special, Shen Yan said smilingly. Second sister-in-law, it's been hard on you, Huo Qingyuan said, taking the initiative to massage her shoulders. I've already informed the artist management department. From now on, they'll accept all magazine shoots and stuff like that on your behalf, Huo Zihang said as he showed Yan Jinyi his conversation with the artist manager. Yan Jinyi felt that she really had to carry on her bandit business here to get rid of evil for the greater good. Recently, the news of old Mr. Huo's birthday banquet appeared frequently on various forums and websites, and many people revealed the guest invitation list that they obtained through some insider sources. As expected, they were all big shots. I really want to attend the birthday banquet, I just want to take a look at the few big shots from afar. I'm so envious. I'm not capable enough to be born with a golden spoon in my mouth like Miss Huo, but will I have the chance to be old Master Huo's granddaughter-in-law? If not, I can marry his great-grandson too. I really envy second young Mistress Huo. Did you save the planet in your previous life to be able to marry Mr. Huo? To be honest, I don't mind marrying Miss Huo either. I'm not picky, I don't mind any gender and I can be both dominant and submissive. Tomorrow would be the day of old Master Huo's birthday banquet. He was currently on the way home with Huo Qinjiao while Yan Jinyi was all dressed up and waiting at the door for their arrival together with the juniors of the Huo family. What lousy high heels are these? They're hurting my feet. Since we're at home, why don't I go upstairs to change out of them? Yan Jinyi tugged the cheongsam dress that she was wearing and couldn't help but stomp her feet. It's just a homecoming, must it be so grand? These wealthy families are just a pain in the neck with those fancy rules of theirs. Fearing that Yan Jinyi would vent her anger on old Master Huo, Huo Qingyuan said, second sister-in-law, why don't you change into a pair of flats? Grandpa has always had strict rules, but he treats you very well. I'm sure he won't let you be mistreated. They all say that the old man treats me well, so, how well does he treat me? I don't see him buying me a house or transferring me money. Forget it if I have to wear high heels to look pretty when I go out, but since we're at home, Why do I have to wear this? They're crazy. Second brother, will second brother come home with grandpa? Huo Xishen asked. Shenyan shook her head and said, Xishen has something to attend to. Grandpa said that he will be attending the birthday banquet tomorrow. Chapter 173, I'm afraid I can't help myself when I see him. Chapter 173, Chapter 173, I'm afraid I can't help myself when I see him. It'd be good if they don't come back too. Jinyi said coldly, I'm just scared that I can't help myself when I see him. Huo Xishen and Huo Qingyuan's eyelids twitched. They were well aware of the feud between the two of them. Second brother is so mean. Second sister-in-law succeeded in her investment and she earned a huge fortune too. Why is her black card still terminated? Huo Qingyuan felt even more aggrieved because Huo Xishen had terminated her card too. She was genuinely poor now. Had she known earlier, she would have told Jinyi to credit the dividends to another account. Suddenly, the tightly shut iron gate opened and several low-profile luxurious black cars were driven in slowly. The first was Jinyi and his arm was still hanging. Jinyi walked towards the car and opened the car door respectfully. Wearing a white lab coat and still looking like a decent scum, Huo Qingyuan alighted from the car and bent forward slightly to bow. Grandpa, we're here. Finally, Jinyi saw the legendary old master Huo. The former Jinyi did not have a deep impression of him, but rumor had it that he was nursing his ailment on a private island. Old Master Huo's name was Huo Xishen and he used to be a powerful and influential figure in his younger days. He had a massive amount of wealth and was a shrewd person with all sorts of means. Huo Xishen was now 80 years old. Despite having a full head of white hair, he still looked extremely energetic. He was dressed in a white traditional Chinese costume with a cane in hand. He had thick eyebrows and a menacing look in his cloudy eyes. He stood still, emitting a mighty and formidable aura. Huo Xian's domineering aura was almost comparable to that of the mighty generals of her era. Huo Qingyuan helped Huo Xian slowly to the door. Grandpa, the tea is ready, please come in. Shenyan consciously walked to the other side of Huo Xian to support him. Huo Xishen behaved in a slightly formal manner as he bowed respectfully. Welcome home, Grandpa. Huo Qingyuan was much less nervous as she smiled brilliantly and said, Grandpa, you're finally back. Third brother bullies me all the time. Huo Xishen glared at her. Huo Xian nodded before finally looking at Jinyi. Jinyi didn't answer him and instead stared at him attentively with her hands behind her back. Jinyi, are you unhappy to see me? Huo Xian took the initiative to strike a conversation with Jinyi who smiled and looked him in the eye naturally. No, I just think you've become even more assertive than before. He found Jinyi to be somewhat different. In the past, she would never dare to make eye contact with him. I heard that you've invested in a film yourself and the box office sales are soaring. Not bad. You're being too kind, Grandpa. Let's head inside. Jinyi gestured for him to enter. Huo Xian was indeed very nice to her as he told her to sit down beside him just after he took his seat. That brat Xishen still hasn't contacted you yet. Jinyi thought about it and said, he has, somewhat. That's good, if he treats you badly, just let me know. Huo family had an intimidating aura and so, the majority of the younger generation of the Huo family were afraid of him and would be extra cautious about what they said to him. However, Jinyi. Grandpa, you should really teach Xishen a good lesson. He's so stingy. If not for Huo Qingyuan's and Zhao Zinken's help, the film probably wouldn't have been successful. Oh, is that so? Are you very close to Zhao Zinken? There was a look of curiosity in Huo Xian's eyes after he heard her words. He wants me to protect him, so it's only right that he pays me protection fees. That's shocking. Jinyi can barely protect herself. When has she started protecting others? Chapter 174, Jinyi called him a heartless man. Chapter 174, Chapter 174, Jinyi called him a heartless man. Seems like Jinyi is on good terms with Zhao Zinken. Does Xishen know about this? The Zhao family didn't get along with the Huo family either because Zhao Zinken's father had repeatedly tried to cooperate with the Huo group but was rejected for being too despicable. Jinyi asked with a look of bewilderment, does he have to know? Huo Xian was stunned and he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Previously, Huo Xishen told him that Jinyi had changed drastically and he was curious to know how exactly she had changed. Now it seems that she had really changed and become more interesting than before. He preferred the way Jinyi was now. After having a casual chat with Jinyi, Huo Xian looked at Huo Qingyuan and Shenyan who were seated opposite. Both of them were occupying a corner of the sofa, leaving the middle completely empty. Qingyuan, Shenyan, how have you two been lately? Shenyan subconsciously looked at Huo Qingyuan and said with a smile, Grandpa, we're doing well, don't worry. Huo Qingyuan still looked as smart and gentle as usual but there was a cold gaze in his eyes under his spectacle lens. We're all right. Shen Yan was dignified and poised, and was capable of handling the matters at home well. Huo Xian had always been pleased with her. After looking at his granddaughter-in-law, Huo Xian turned to look at his grandson again. I'm the least worried about you two. Jinyi, you're already in your early 30s, don't you plan to have a baby? At the mention of babies, Shen Yan began to look awkward. Subconsciously clutching at the hem of her skirt and forcing herself to smile, she replied, Grandpa, Jinyi has been busy with work and I've been furthering my studies abroad too, so. No matter how busy you are, you ought to take care of your family and bear children too. Becoming stern all of a sudden, Huo Xian gripped his walking stick tightly and knocked it against the ground. I spoke to your father over the phone a couple of days ago and he hopes that you two will focus on your family for now. Shen Yan, you're the only daughter that your parents have and they've been wanting a grandchild since a long time ago. I'm getting old too and my days are numbered. Is it that difficult to fulfill my wish of having a great-grandchild? Being put in a difficult spot, Shen Yan looked at Huo Jinyi. Pretending like he didn't see that, Huo Jinyi stood up and bowed to Huo Xian. Grandpa, I have a research report to write. I'll head upstairs first. Huo Xian chided with fury in his eyes, you rascal. Yan Jinyi caught sight of the disappointment on Shen Yan's face. Shen Yan and Huo Jinyi did not share a close and loving relationship, unlike what the rumors claimed. At least, Huo Jinyi didn't quite fancy Shen Yan. Yan Jinyi somehow felt that she was in the same boat as Shen Yan. However, she was very different from Shen Yan. She had gotten involved halfway and didn't have any feelings for Huo Xishen, but Shen Yan obviously fancied Huo Jinyi a lot. Ah, are all men blind? Shen Yan is such a gentle and elegant beauty, but he'd rather ignore her and go for girls who have gone under the knife and have faces full of fillers. This is outrageous. Sister-in-law, there are heartless men everywhere, there's no point in giving up the entire forest for a lousy tree. After Grandpa's birthday banquet, I'll take you to unwind. I mean, I'll take you to live a carefree life and experience the joy of the world. Huo Jinyi, who had already walked to the stairway, couldn't help but turn around. Did Yan Jinyi just call me a heartless man? Did she call me lousy too? Huo Xian was astonished. Yan Jinyi criticized his grandson in front of him and even tried to coerce his granddaughter-in-law to find another man. When has Xishen's wife become so interesting? Huo Qingyuan got excited and exclaimed, second sister-in-law, I want to go too. I happen to be on a break now. Yan Jinyi glanced at her coldly and said, go have fun with your beloved senior. You're not fit to go out with sister-in-law. Chapter 175, we have already broken up. Chapter 175, Chapter 175, we have already broken up. We've already broken up, second sister-in-law, I've already learned my lesson. You can't be like this. Huo Qingyuan felt extremely aggrieved. Rumor had it that girls of wealthy families had high tendencies of being retarded, and it seemed that it was true. I'm totally a retard. I actually got deceived by that bastard Zhou Yan and ended up in such a terrible state. I feel terrible too, okay. By the way, what's the matter with that Zhou Yan? Huo Xian finally recalled the fact that Huo Zihang had previously informed him that Huo Qingyuan had gotten into a romantic relationship but broken up. Huo Qingyuan shook her head vigorously and said, Grandpa, it's nothing much. I was just too silly to have trusted the wrong person. Grandpa, I was wrong. I won't trust a random man easily again. Have you broken up completely? Are you sure that you won't give in if that man comes back and tries to reconcile with you? Huo Qingyuan was shaking her head vigorously. No, I won't, I swear. Huo Xian looked at Huo Zihang and asked sternly, what about you? How many times did you change your girlfriend when I wasn't around? He knew that sooner or later it would be his turn to be questioned. Huo Zihang sat upright and said, Grandpa, I've been a conscientable man for a long time. Are you sure? Yes, ask Zhou Keryui if you don't believe me. Zhou Keryui was Huo Zihang's best friend, whose family engaged in foreign trade. Just like Huo Zihang, he was a rich heir. Humph, you're not getting any younger. It's time that you marry a good girl and build a family of your own. Grandpa, there aren't that many good girls these days. Do you think all girls are like sister-in-law? Yan Jinyi raised her eyebrow and looked askance at Huo Zihang. What do you mean, are you saying that I'm not a good girl? Huo Zihang met Yan Jinyi's gaze, clearly telling him, you're finished if you dare to tell on me. No, second sister-in-law, you're absolutely unique. That's more like it? Huo Xian realized that in the 2 months that he had been absent from home, Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan seemed to have become extra respectful towards Yan Jinyi. Even Huo Jinyi praised them when he was inside the car. Although Huo Jinyi had a decent appearance, he was not easy to get along with. It was a bright and sunny day. Huo Xian's birthday banquet was just round the corner. The large Huo family mansion was decorated with various lights and decorations, and the spacious lawn was also filled with wine and delicacies. One after another, luxurious cars were driven over and parked outside the mansion. The rich, wealthy, and prominent figures came out of the car with their wives and children, carrying bags of gifts of various sizes. Huo Xishen invited the top styling team of the nation to doll up the women in the family. Huo Qingyuan was given a young and energetic, princess-themed outfit and look that made her look particularly sweet. On the other hand, Shen Yan dressed elegantly like a light blue long cheongsam dress which accentuated her svelte figure. "Sister-in-law, you're so beautiful." Huo Qingyuan couldn't help but give Shen Yan a thumbs up when she saw her. "Is second sister-in-law not ready yet?" Shen Yan shook her head and said, "I guess she'll take a while longer." Jinyi had just thrown a tantrum. "What kind of a weirdo is that stylist? He chose a bath towel for me." At this moment, the stylist was staring at the dress on the sofa that Jinyi described as a bath towel, flabbergasted. It was a bandeau gown that was designed by an internationally renowned designer, and it was the one and only piece in the world. Yet, Jinyi called it a towel. "This dress may be white in color and velvety, but how does it look like a towel? It's clearly gorgeous and sexy." After a long time, the maid brought over a bunch of dresses. The stylist trembled and picked out a long one. "Second young mistress Huo, do you think the dress is okay?" Jinyi glanced at it and said, "It's a proper dress, why do you have to cut off the piece of fabric at the back? Does the Huo family need this fabric? No, you must change it." Chapter 176, If you go out in this, you'll definitely be stunning. Chapter 176, Chapter 176, If you go out in this, you'll definitely be stunning. This is a backless design that's in trend and popular now. Second young mistress Huo, who is the weirdo? The dress I chose is coveted by many wealthy men's wives who can't even get their hands on it. After being in a dilemma for nearly an hour, Jinyi finally decided on a dress. It was a long red dress with a simple design that looked particularly eye-catching on Jinyi. Jinyi had chosen that dress herself. After doing her hair and makeup, the stylist stared at Jinyi who was in front of the mirror and couldn't help but sigh. "No wonder second young mistress Huo wasn't satisfied with the dress I chose. This red dress really suits her too well." Red was a difficult color to pull off, especially the shade of red of that she was wearing. Those who lacked elegance would make it seem tacky. Jinyi had a good complexion, a pretty face, and a wonderful figure. "Second young mistress Huo, you will definitely be stunningly gorgeous when you go out in this." While chewing on gum, Jinyi raised her chin proudly and said, "I've always been very confident." The lawn was already crowded with people. Huo Xishen, Huo Qinjiao, and the others were standing among the crowd. Zhang Qiuquan walked over and muttered while Huo Xian smiled and looked at the gate of the mansion. "My two granddaughters-in-law and granddaughter have already gotten ready. Ladies, if you find yourselves getting bored, you may go chat with them. My eldest granddaughter-in-law is learned in business, perhaps she can share her experience with you." Is the mysterious second young mistress Huo of the Huo family, who has been in the limelight of the media recently, going to make an appearance? Everyone on the scene looked over in the direction of Huo Xian's gaze. Three beautiful figures slowly appeared in front of everyone. They had met Huo Qingyuan and Shen Yan before, so they could easily guess that the beautiful woman in red who was on Shen Yan's left, was second young mistress Huo. Her skin was as fair as snow and her beautiful eyebrows were slightly curved. Her features were exquisite and her gaze seemed mindless. Second young mistress Huo is so beautiful, it's no wonder she's the wife of Huo Xishen. Second sister-in-law, don't worry, all the people present are wealthy and authoritative figures. No one will pay attention to the entertainment industry, especially younger artists like you, so you won't be recognized. Even if anyone recognizes you, they won't dare to spout nonsense and spread the word." Huo Qingyuan bent over and whispered. "Do you mean that I'm not famous enough?" "No. In fact, second sister-in-law, you really aren't famous enough." Of course Jinyi knew that she really wasn't that famous, but she just found that it was really too much fun to tease Huo Qingyuan every now and then. "I really didn't expect second young master Huo Xishen's wife to be so beautiful. Old master Huo, congratulations on having two such excellent granddaughters-in-law. Second young mistress Huo is in good shape. I've been curious about Mr. Huo's wife ever since I heard the news about his marriage. She's indeed very extraordinary." "Yeah, old master Huo, you're so lucky to have such beautiful granddaughters-in-law. Your granddaughter is so meticulous too." Everyone began to sing praises about Jinyi in a bid to suck up to them. "Jinyi, do you see the people next to Grandpa? I'll introduce you to them. You just have to remember their surnames, you don't have to remember the others." Shen Yan said thoughtfully as she brought Jinyi through the crowd. Jinyi nodded. The upper-class circle was neither large nor small. A top wealthy family like the Huo family would only be in close contact with a few families. Hence, she really didn't have to bother remembering the names of the others. That was the good thing about marrying into a wealthy family. If one wanted to marry into one, they ought to choose the one that's at the top of the hierarchy. Chapter 177, I didn't expect Mr. Tang to really show up. Chapter 177, Chapter 177, I didn't expect Mr. Tang to really show up. Jinyi felt almost like an animal in the zoo. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Tang Qing is here." Everyone consciously made way for him. Clad in a grey suit with a large pair of sunglasses on his face, Tang Qing strode in under the protection of 2 bodyguards. He took big steps and looked overbearing and domineering. Huo Xishen was a bit surprised to see Tang Qing and he asked, "Did we send Tang Qing an invitation?" He turned his head to look at Huo Jinyi. Huo Jinyi pursed his lips and answered, "I'm not sure. Grandpa, I invited Mr. Tang to come." Jinyi explained smilingly, "Previously, I went to Mr. Tang's auction and Mr. Tang wanted me to send his well wishes to you. I was thinking that it'd be inappropriate for me not to give him an invitation." In a moment of epiphany, Huo Xishen exclaimed, "Oh, I see. Yes, I was being perfunctory at first, I didn't expect Mr. Tang to really show up. Well, he's still a guest after all, let's receive him." Jinyi's voice was quite loud, and everyone around heard her. Tang Qing actually let second young mistress Huo relay his well wishes to old master Huo? Does the Tang family intend to patch up with the Huo family? If the Tang family and Huo family really made up, wouldn't the 2 corporations form an invincible combo? As soon as Tang Qing walked towards them, he paused in his tracks and had a sullen expression on his face. When have I ever told her to send my well wishes? What does she mean by just giving me an invitation perfunctorily? I even put my dignity aside and showed up. Yes, he is a guest. Tang Qing, long time no see. Huo Xishen took the initiative to extend his hand for a handshake with Tang Qing. "How has your grandfather's health been lately?" Tang Qing humphed coldly and said, "He's alive and well. He has beautiful babes to accompany him all day. He seems to be doing better than you." Jinyi watched their interaction while blinking. There is something fishy. There's something fishy between this old man and the family of rogues, the Tang family. She pulled Huo Qingyuan and waved at her. "Huo Qingyuan, come here." Huo Qingyuan hurriedly moved towards Jinyi and asked, "Second sister-in-law, do you have any orders for me?" Jinyi leaned closer to Huo Qingyuan mysteriously and asked, "What's going on with your grandfather and Tang Qing's family?" Huo Qingyuan coughed and thought, is second sister-in-law unaware of this? Isn't this an open secret? Seeing Huo Qingyuan's expression, Jinyi's eyebrows twitched. There really is something fishy. Tang Qing as grandfather and our grandpa used to be rivals in love when they were younger. Jinyi's eyes widened and she felt that she had smelled some gossip. "You have 3 minutes to give me detailed explanation. Our grandmother was very popular with men in her younger days. Grandpa and Tang Qing's grandfather were 2 of her many suitors. In the beginning, Grandma preferred Tang's grandfather because he was carefree and not restrained by his family. He was very knowledgeable too. As a young lady of a wealthy family who has been living a sheltered and cloistered life, she's always yearned for such a lifestyle." "Oh, I see. Why did she end up getting married to your grandfather?" "Second sister-in-law, he's our grandfather," Huo Qingyuan corrected solemnly. "Grandpa was born to a prestigious family, so he grew up under strict discipline. Since he was subjected to strict rules, he became dull and boring. He wasn't good at expressing his feelings too. Well, young girls like hearing sweet talk and romantic gestures. However, Grandma's parents insisted that Grandma marry Grandpa. Otherwise, my brothers and I wouldn't have been here." Jinyi was feeling a little regretful. It'd be good if you people never existed. After hearing the cheesy love story, she felt that Tang Qing's grandfather was quite compatible with the late old Mrs. Huo. Chapter 178, Why Can't a Rogue Have True Love? Chapter 178, Chapter 178, Why Can't a Rogue Have True Love? Why can't a rogue have true love? Ever since ancient times, rogues and bandits had always been the same type of people. She was feeling very unjust for Tang Qing's grandfather at the moment. What happened afterwards? Huo Qingyuan sighed and said, "After Grandpa and Grandma got married, Tang Qing's grandfather married a random woman, who's Tang Qing's grandmother. Later on, he went about his philandering days and now, he's surrounded by young and beautiful women. Don't Tang Qing and Huo Xishen detest each other? Is it also because of a woman?" Huo Qingyuan looked at Jinyi quietly. "Second sister-in-law, please don't spout nonsense casually, especially such shocking statements. Second brother is very pure, you're the only woman he loves in this life." The guests arrived one after another. Huo Xishen took a look at his wristwatch and asked, "Is Xishen not here yet?" Huo Qinjiao hung up and said, "He just got off the plane and is on his way here now. Grandpa, if you're tired, you can go back in to get some rest." Huo Xian thought about it and nodded. That's good too. Almost as soon as he sat down, all the wealthy heirs arrived with gifts. In a short while, the empty seats behind Huo Xian were occupied with a small pile of gifts. After all the guests sent their gifts, it was finally the Huo family's turn. The Huo family was well connected with many friends and relatives, but most of them were overseas. Only a few remained in the nation. When it was Yan Jinyi's turn to present the gifts, she first looked at Tang Qing, who was sitting on the sofa next to Huo Xian. Tang Qing stared at her with a burning gaze, but to be precise, he was staring at the painting in her hand. Grandpa, this is the gift that I've meticulously picked out for you. I've been through so much for this painting. Yan Jinyi said with much exaggeration. Huo Xian grabbed the painting smilingly and lifted the cloth that was covering it. When he saw the painting of a lifelike tiger, Huo Xian's eyes lit up. Not bad, Jinyi, that's very thoughtful of you. How did you get this painting? Speaking of the source of this painting, it's also thanks to Mr. Tang that I managed to obtain it. If not for the fact that Mr. Tang has gentlemanly decided to let me have the painting during the auction and generously paid for it, you wouldn't have gotten it today, Grandpa. Seems like this was bought from the Tang family's auction. Tang Qing felt that he had been used by Yan Jinyi. I clearly paid for the painting as a token of filial piety for Huo Xian. Why has it become a result of Yan Jinyi's good judgment? Why is she getting all the credit? He looked at Yan Jinyi with displeasure while she smiled at him radiantly. Mr. Tang, you're such a generous person. No wonder you're the CEO of Tang Corporation. Huh? Didn't Mr. Tang bring a gift for Grandpa? I thought, being the rich person he is, Mr. Tang would definitely bring at least 10 gifts. How is this humane? Tang Qing glowered at Yan Jinyi and said with a mirthless smile, I forgot to prepare the gifts. Isn't that painting a gift from me? I was cheated out of my 2 million yuan too. Shen Yan never knew that her sister-in-law, Yan Jinyi, was such a quick-wit person. Huo Xian said, your attendance is enough, no need for the gifts. Tang Qing's appearance at his birthday banquet would already bring great benefit to both parties, as it would lead others to thinking that there might be a chance that the Tang Corporation and Huo Group would make up with each other, thus driving up the stock prices. I'm mainly here because of second young mistress Huo. I discovered that she's too charming. Tang Qing looked at Yan Jinyi and shook his head regretfully. It's such a shame I met her too late. She has already become someone else's wife. Chapter 179, She's Lusting for Huo Xishen. Chapter 179, Chapter 179, She's Lusting for Huo Xishen. What does Tang Qing mean by this? Is he openly confessing his love to second young mistress Huo in the presence of the Huo family? Everyone present was stunned. Yan Jinyi folded her arms and made eye contact with Tang Qing calmly. Mr. Tang, do you carry a torch for me? Carry a torch for you? What a joke, I just want to snatch you away from Huo Xishen to upset him. Besides, this woman is indeed very interesting, she's crazier than I am. Second young mistress Huo has really attracted me with her beauty. If I don't strive to court her, I might regret it for life. Sensing the curious gazes that were cast on her, Yan Jinyi secretly clenched her fists. What does Tang Qing mean by this? Does he want to make everyone hate me? Damn it, does he really think I'm a pushover? So, you've taken a liking to me. Tang Qing did not deny and instead smiled roguishly. I'll snatch and get my hands on whatever I like. I don't care about ethics and morality, second young mistress Huo, don't you agree? Wow. Tang Qing has got a similar temper to me. I didn't know that you like my wife so much, Mr. Tang. Suddenly, a cold and indifferent voice sounded. It was low, alluring, and oppressive. This is... Yan Jinyi raised her eyebrows and quickly looked at the door. The first to enter were Jinyi and Zhang Qiuquan, who were standing on both sides of the door. Immediately after that, she saw a pair of long and slender legs. She slowly moved her eyes up his slender waist, followed by his chiseled jaw, thin lips, and high nose bridge. Finally, she met his pair of mysterious eyes that were dark like the deep ocean. The man looked younger than 30, and was donning an immaculately trimmed black suit. He was walking in composedly with one hand in the pocket of his trousers and the other by his side. The wristwatch on his wrist was particularly eye-catching. He had an excellent aura, was poised, refined, and noble. With his thin lips pressed together slightly, he gave off a cold and menacing vibe that made him seem unapproachable. Mr. Huo, you're finally back. We haven't met in a long time and you've become even more domineering. The people around him were in awe. Huo Xishen walked straight towards Huo Xian and nodded. Grandpa. Extremely pleased with Huo Xishen, Huo Xian grinned widely when he saw him. Good that you're back, we've all been waiting for you. Huo Xishen nodded and glanced at Yan Jinyi calmly before looking at Tang Qing. I didn't expect that Mr. Tang would set foot into the Huo family's territory. Tang Qing shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. I'm mainly here for second young mistress Huo. She's too charming and I've been missing her like crazy since we parted 2 days ago. You're very lucky to have such an interesting wife, Mr. Huo. My wife is indeed a good catch. Otherwise, why would she have become second young mistress Huo? Huo Xishen smirked and finally looked at Yan Jinyi. Yan Jinyi was blatantly sizing Huo Xishen up. This dog looks better in person. To be frank, I'm lusting over his body. Why don't I toy with him for a bit before getting a divorce? Huo Xishen still had no idea that the female bandit Yan Jinyi had already taken a liking to his body. He had heard a lot about her lately. After seeing her in person, he admitted that she had changed quite a bit. At the very least, she no longer looked at him with deep affection like she used to. Milady, do you have something to say to Mr. Tang who's so fond of you? The gentle smile on Huo Xishen's handsome face made him incredibly charming. Yan Jinyi was in a bit of a trance. Huo Xishen looks so dashing when he smiles. Milady. Chapter 180, She's Still Huo Xishen's Wife. Chapter 180, Chapter 180, She's Still Huo Xishen's Wife. Yan Jinyi asked with a look of puzzlement, Who are you calling milady? Still as gentle and poised as ever, Huo Xishen said, Who else except you? Yan Jinyi thought about it for a long while, finding it hard to wrap her head around it. Oh, right, I'm still that dog's wife. There's nothing wrong with him addressing me that way. Tisk, it seems that you and your wife don't have a loving relationship, Mr. Huo. Second young mistress Huo doesn't even want to admit her identity as your wife. Tang Qing made a particularly sarcastic remark. Huo Xishen inrode him and instead sat down beside Yan Jinyi. Indeed, Mr. Tang is jealous. Puzzled, Tang Qing asked, Jealous? What for? Huo Xishen cast him a lazy glance. My wife is such an intelligent woman. It's a shame you can't win her heart. Huo Xishen has got such a sharp tongue. Tang Qing looked at Yan Jinyi and secretly swore that he would never lose to Huo Xishen like his grandfather had lost to old Mr. Huo. He had decided that he would work hard to win Yan Jinyi over from Huo Xishen from that day onwards. He was bent on making Yan Jinyi divorce Huo Xishen and then marry him to become Mrs. Tang. He combed the hair in front of his forehead with one hand and crossed one leg over the other. Placing both hands on the sofa, he said roguishly, Second young mistress Huo is young and beautiful. Unfortunately, Mr. Huo doesn't know how to appreciate her. I happen to be single and I need a wife. Second young mistress Huo seems to fit my criteria and standards for a wife. Second young mistress Huo, why don't you divorce Mr. Tang and marry me instead? Tang Qing is too brazen. Second young mistress Huo's husband is right there and yet, Tang Qing is self-righteously telling her to leave him. All of a sudden, everyone turned to look at Huo Xishen. Huo Xishen leaned against the couch in a particularly sluggish manner, exuding his nobility. His indifference made it seem like he had never taken Tang Qing seriously in the first place. Milady, Mr. Tang is very fond of you. Should you express something? Express something? Ha! Yan Jinyi squinted and glowered at Tang Qing menacingly. You're not fit to marry me. Tang Qing's smile stiffened. Huo Xishen was delighted. He looked at Yan Jinyi with a smile on his face. Indeed, you're worthy of being my wife. Just as everyone was swooning over Yan Jinyi's loyalty towards Huo Xishen. It's already devastating enough to have stepped into the grave of marriage by getting married to Huo Xishen. Yet, you still want me to jump from this grave to another? Can you make me the richest person in the world or give me immortality? You're so incompetent and you still have the cheek to ask me to marry you. You must be dreaming. Idiot, what kind of a fool is this? So what if you're a rogue? I'm a bandit. I'm really not exaggerating, you should be calling me your ancestor. Tang Qing licked his lower lip. It's a pity this woman is not a gangster. Huo Xishen didn't expect to be targeted too. Looking at Tang Qing gloatingly, he said, Mr. Tang, you heard it, my wife wants you to dream on. Damn it Huo Xishen, I'm dead against you. Second young mistress Huo, I like how feisty you are. Mr. Huo is very evil, cunning, and brutal. He can be very ruthless too. Second young mistress Huo, you will only suffer if you continue being with him. I'm still going to stay firm to my stand. If you decide to leave him one day, my doors are open for you. I'll share with you everything that I have. Mr. Tang, you're incredible. You insulted Mr. Huo on his turf. Chapter 181, I don't care about you people. Chapter 181, Chapter 181, I don't care about you people. Huo Xishen was already a little displeased. Tang Qing, Jinyi is a great catch, but she is in a loving marriage with Xishen. They won't allow a third party to come in between them. Old Master Huo, you're being too serious. It's the 21st century. We are not as particular as our foremen used to be. As long as the two people are in love with each other, it doesn't matter whether they are married to someone else or not. The people around them watched the conversation with great interest. It seemed that Tang Qing was determined to make a cuckold out of Huo Xishen. Mr. Tang is so suave and domineering. Tang Qing laughed at the ruffian. Tang and other second young grandmothers are divorced. He grinned at Jinyi roguishly and said, I'll wait for second young mistress Huo to get a divorce. Gripping his walking stick tightly, Huo Xian was just about to speak when Huo Xishen said coldly, since you like being a homewrecker, we're in no place to stop you. Huo Xishen then glanced at Jinyi. My dear wife, you're so popular with men. I hope you will be careful and avoid going out in the future. What does this dog mean? Is he trying to ground me? Despite smiling, Jinyi had already cursed Huo Xishen terribly deep down. Madam, is there something you're upset about? Damn it, you. As soon as Jinyi spoke, Huo Qingyuan hurriedly covered her mouth and risked her life to pull Jinyi to the side. Second sister-in-law, you can scold him however you'd like in private, but Grandpa's birthday banquet is ongoing now. Everyone here is influential enough to easily take the city by storm. We can't make a fool out of the Huo family. Jinyi took a deep breath. She understood that, but she couldn't tolerate it. Huo Xishen was being too much of a bully. Second sister-in-law, I beg of you, Grandpa is always very generous when he comes home and he'll give us juniors a lot of pocket money under the conditions that we don't upset him. Otherwise, we won't get a single cent. Pocket money. Jinyi's eyes lit up. How much? At least $1 million. Grandpa is very generous, if he's in a good mood, he might give us even more. Ah, this old man is a generous and wealthy man. I can't offend him. Jinyi clenched her fists and said, I'll try not to get angry at your brother. I'll vent it on someone else. After cajoling Jinyi and getting her to simmer down, Huo Qingyuan heaved a sigh of relief and made an okay sign at Shen Yan. Second sister-in-law, let's go over now. Second brother must have plenty of people to meet this time since he's just returned. Jinyi looked at Huo Xishen who was being surrounded by others and asked, is Huo Xishen very good at earning money? He's better than Tang Qing. Second brother makes enough to buy an entire city. Wow, he's so rich. Jinyi sighed. Unfortunately, he's stingy and no matter how rich he is, it's pointless. He's actually worse than Tang Qing. All he has are good looks. Yes, he's got a hot body too. Most of the guests present were there for the sake of making connections with the Huo family. As the helmsman of the Huo group, Huo Xishen was naturally the center of attention. It seems second young mistress Huo doesn't have much of a say. Go and chat with Shen Yan instead and try to build some connections with her, a boss ordered, staring at his wife ferociously. Where is Shen Yan? Getting close to her is the most important. Ignore second young mistress Huo and Miss Huo for the time being, a senior executive of a certain firm instructed his wife. At this moment, Jinyi walked past a few people while holding a tray of food. Ignore me? Do I seem that insignificant? Hubby, do you find your back a little cold? It might be because of the breeze just now. Mr. Zhang, I feel so cold. Darling, be good, let's focus on getting close to Shen Yan now, I'll warm you up tonight. Jinyi looked away and thought, I don't even care about a bunch of scumbags like you people. Chapter 182, Jinyi, can I borrow some money? Chapter 182, Chapter 182, Jinyi, can I borrow some money? Huo Xishen brushed off the people who went up to try and suck up to him. He then reached out to pinch his temples, only to see that Tang Qing was sitting on the sofa and drinking some wine silently. Xishen, what's going on with Tang Qing and Jinyi? Huo Qinjiao asked in a deep voice with his thick eyebrows furrowed slightly, when did Jinyi get involved with Tang Qing? Huo Xishen calmly sipped his wine and said, Big brother, why don't you ask Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan instead? Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan had innocent expressions. We don't know anything. We don't dare to meddle with second sister-in-law's affairs. Shen Yan was surrounded by a group of wealthy men's wives while Huo Xian led the three Huo brothers to talk to several prominent figures. On the other hand, Huo Qingyuan stayed at the side to chat with her friends. Jinyi ate the cake while wandering among the crowd, bored out of her wits. The banquets of wealthy families are so boring. After thinking about it, she planned to go give Tang Qing a hard time. Zhang Qiuquan walked over carefully and said, Second young mistress Huo, there is a person outside who claims to be your aunt looking for you. Aunt? Do I have an aunt? With a look of puzzlement, Jinyi carefully searched her memories and thought, oh, yes, the original owner does seem to have an aunt. Why is she looking for me? I don't know, she just keeps crying, there should be something urgent. It was the woman from her uncle's second marriage. She was a gossip monger and a greedy money grubber. What else could she have wanted to see her for? Right after Huo Xishen made Jinyi upset, someone sent herself to the door to vent her anger. Indeed, I'm a fairy who's blessed by heaven. Tell her to come to look for me in the garden at the back. Zhang Qiuquan left and Yan Jinyi wandered around the lawn. She stuffed a piece of cake into her mouth and finally grabbed a glass of wine before walking slowly to the garden at the back. The Huo family's mansion was large. The back garden was connected to the vegetable garden, and at this moment, the servants have all gone to the front to help. Hence, the place was very quiet. Yan Jinyi looked for a chair and sat down before drinking some wine leisurely. Soon, Zhang Qiuquan came with a middle-aged woman. She was slightly chubby, but she was wearing a tight green dress, and a dazzling gold belt, making her particularly eye-catching. The woman was carefully clutching a designer bag, and after seeing Yan Jinyi, she immediately carried the bag in her hand and held her head up. She was the so-called Aunt Chen Yulian. When she saw Yan Jinyi, Chen Yulian immediately put on a loving expression like she was a kind elder. Jinyi, I haven't seen you for such a long time. You're getting prettier and prettier. Yan Jinyi glanced at her expressionlessly and said, Zhang Qiuquan, you're dismissed. Zhang Qiuquan knew that Yan Jinyi hated him. Hence, he immediately turned around to leave without delay. Chen Yulian first scanned her surroundings, her gaze full of amazement. The Huo family's mansion is really huge. Will you get lost living here? Yan Jinyi still remained silent. Your uncle owns a small business now, but unfortunately the nation's economy is in the doldrums now. All his money has been spent on stocking goods and he can't withdraw any. It happens that your cousin wants to go overseas to develop. There she goes, this woman is finally going to start acting. Seeing that Yan Jinyi was staying silent for a long time, Chen Yulian thought to herself resentfully, you just married into a rich family. What's the big deal? Jinyi, can you lend us some money? Your cousin wants to go overseas to study architecture. He's very talented in this. Once your uncle's money is deposited, we'll return it to you immediately. Yan Jinyi sipped on some wine and asked, is your son doing well academically? She remembered that Chen Yulian's son had poor grades and his results were worse than Huo Qingyuan's. How could he do his ancestors proud? Chapter 183, Do I Look Rich? Chapter 183, Do I Look Rich? Obviously a little embarrassed, Chen Yulian coughed and said, your cousin's academic performance is indeed poor, but he's really very talented in architecture. Otherwise, he wouldn't think of furthering his studies abroad. Jinyi, we are a family after all. It's a good thing that your cousin wants to study abroad. When he returns from studying abroad, he will become a top architect. Wouldn't that be an honor to you too? With one leg crossed over the other nonchalantly, Yan Jinyi asked, am I very embarrassing now? Seeing that Yan Jinyi suddenly changed the topic, Chen Yulian was rather displeased. What's wrong with Yan Jinyi? She used to give me money right away as long as I act pitiful. What's wrong with her today? You're his sister and you're so lucky to have married Mr. Huo. We're only asking for hundreds of thousands. This amount of money is peanuts to you. No matter what, you have to help your relative. Your uncle is your mother's half-sibling. Someone actually tried to borrow hundreds of thousands of money from her. Yan Jinyi seemed to have heard the greatest joke ever. What a joke. Do I look rich? I heard that Mr. Huo mistreats you. Jinyi, I do have a solution for that will make Mr. Huo pamper you. Why don't I teach you? Yan Jinyi rolled her eyes and thought, do you really think this is about vying in the harem? Besides, I can easily attract countless hunks. Must I waste my effort on trying to please that dog Huo Xishen? Yan Jinyi still refused to speak and Chen Yulian began to panic. Jinyi, we really only need help because your uncle's funds are stuck. Once we get the funds, we'll return the money to you immediately. Think about it, when your parents passed away, we were the ones who helped you. Of course, you'd have to work hard to help. You've been pocketing all the condolence money that the neighbors gave me. No, what makes you think I have money? Don't you have money? Chen Yulian asked with her gaze. Your second young mistress Huo, how can you be short of money? This Yan Jinyi probably doesn't want to acknowledge us now that she has attained success. Back then, I was the one who told Yan Jinyi about her engagement with the Huo family. Otherwise, why would she marry into the Huo family? What a joke. Jinyi, after your parents died, your uncle and I have been worried sick. Within a few short days, you turned into skin and bones. The debtors had to look for you because they couldn't go after your parents. While speaking, Chen Yulian wiped her tears as she sat down beside Yan Jinyi. It broke my heart to see you that way. Unfortunately, we weren't rich at that time and couldn't help you. Yan Jinyi bent down and plucked some grass before placing it in her mouth. Your uncle suddenly remembered that when your grandfather was a young man, he met old Master Huo who had gotten hurt by his enemy. He brought him home and took great care of him. Back then, old Master Huo immediately set that engagement for you and Mr. Huo. So this is how the engagement came about. Yan Jinyi had a moment of epiphany. Indeed, having a burning passion for helping others would give one the chance to enter a rich family. At that time, I saw that you were almost going crazy, so I decided to tell you about the engagement. I didn't expect your grandpa to keep it a secret for so long. If he told you earlier, your family wouldn't have. Fortunately, when your uncle and grandfather were drinking, your grandfather accidentally let it slip. You went around the bush just to say that I managed to marry into the Huo family, all thanks to you, right? Bisht. It's all your fault that I married that dog at such a young age. Chapter 184, No, I don't have any money, you can leave now. Chapter 184, Chapter 184, No, I don't have any money, you can leave now. Chen Yulian was still playing the sympathy card as she didn't notice Yan Jinyi's expression at all. I'm not asking for anything in return, I just want to borrow some money for your younger brother to further his studies abroad. After saying that, Chen Yulian stared at Yan Jinyi for a long time. After slowly finishing a mouthful of red wine, Yan Jinyi asked indifferently, Are you done? Stunned for a moment, Chen Yulian nodded and said, Jinyi, take it that I'm begging you. It's rare for your cousin to be so interested in something. Furthering his studies abroad is going to be beneficial for him, it'll help him get a good wife. After a few moments of silence, Yan Jinyi suddenly smiled sweetly. Chen Yulian sighed in relief and was just about to take out her ATM card when Yan Jinyi said, No. Yan Jinyi lifted her head to look Chen Yulian in the eye and said, Haven't I made myself clear enough? I'm not lending you any money. What's wrong with this little b*tch? Does she think she's a big deal now that she has married into the Huo family for quite some time? Suppressing the anger within her, Chen Yulian forced a smile and said, Jinyi, are you joking? I know you're kind-hearted, you definitely won't leave your cousin in the lurch since this concerns his future. I remember that you and uncle seem to only have one daughter. Chen Yulian looked a little angered. Your cousin may not be your uncle's flesh and blood, but your uncle has always treated him as his own. What has it got to do with me then? I don't treat him like my son. Sensing that her smile was about to vanish, Chen Yulian felt a strong urge to strangle Yan Jinyi to death. Did someone badmouth us to you? Jinyi, it's not like we're not going to return the money, you. I remember lending you 100,000 yuan 7 months ago. Yan Jinyi stretched her hand out and said, Return that to me first. The original Yan Jinyi was prideful, but to put it bluntly, she was just a fool. She had already married Huo Xishen and yet she insisted on having a backbone and refused to spend a single cent of his money. The 100,000 yuan that she had lent Chen Yulian was her hard-earned money from being a background actress. Unlike her predecessor, Yan Jinyi would definitely agree without hesitation, even if someone offered 10 million yuan in exchange for her to leave Huo Xishen and beat him up badly. As for those who wanted to borrow money from her, No, I don't have any money, you may leave. Chen Yulian could no longer be bothered to be pretentious with Yan Jinyi. This little b*tch has no money? Who is she kidding? She's already married to Huo Xishen and even if he doesn't like her now, how can she be too broke to afford just a few hundred grands? Old Master Huo is so fond of her, he definitely showers her with expensive gifts all the time. Yan Jinyi, are you sure you don't want to lend me any money? She's falling out with me now, huh? Yan Jinyi raised her eyebrows and stuck her thumb up. No, not lending you any money. Yan Jinyi, don't take it too far. I'm talking to you nicely but don't push my limits. Humph, do you think you're a big deal just because you married into the Huo family? If I tell the Huo family about your shameless past, you can get ready to be driven out of this family. She's threatening me now, huh? Yan Jinyi remained still and she even asked curiously, Is that so? What's so shameless about my past? Why don't you cite an example? What does she mean by that? Is she denying all her shameless acts? Humph, you're too timing. Even after you married Mr. Huo, you're still in love with your old flame. How come I didn't know that I have an old flame? After saying her piece, Chen Yulian looked at Yan Jinyi conceitedly, waiting to hear her apology. I thought it was a huge matter. I have a new lover too, what more an old flame? How could the stingy Yan Jinyi be willing to lend money to someone else? Chapter 185, What is shame? Chapter 185, Chapter 185, What is shame? Chen Yulian glared at Yan Jinyi with great animosity. Yan Jinyi, have you got any shame at all? Yan Jinyi retorted indifferently, What's that? Will it make me rich? Can I eat it or play with it? What? You're just a fool, how dare you borrow money from me? You must still be dreaming, huh? Boiling with fury, Chen Yulian breathed heavily and her chest heaved up and down. Don't go too far, you only managed to marry into the Huo family because of the agreement between your grandfather and old Master Huo. Otherwise, you won't even be qualified to marry him. Yan Jinyi continued to sip on red wine, completely ignoring Chen Yulian's presence. Yan Jinyi, don't be too smug. Plenty of women throw themselves at outstanding men like Mr. Huo. Ha, I know very clearly that Mr. Huo doesn't acknowledge you as his wife at all. Otherwise, why would he make you stay in the storeroom? I'm your aunt, as long as I slander you in front of Mr. Huo, don't you think he'll detest you even more? How dare she threaten me? Go ahead then. You. Aren't you scared of being kicked out of the Huo family? I'd be more than happy to. As long as I'm given money, I can pack my bags and leave overnight. Chen Yulian discovered that Yan Jinyi was simply a tough nut to crack. When did this little b*tch become so difficult to deal with? I can't convince her at all. Are you really not going to lend us any money? Yan Jinyi was getting annoyed. No. As soon as she was about to say something, the eagle-eyed Chen Yulian saw a few rich men's wives walking over and quickly smacked her knees before falling onto the ground abruptly. What sin have I committed? Even if you don't wish to help me, you don't have to push me. I'm your aunt after all, I used to keep you company and comfort you all day after your parents' death. The few wives of rich men were initially exploring the Huo family residence out of curiosity and happened to stumble upon Yan Jinyi's dispute with Chen Yulian. They hesitated for a moment when they saw it. We'd better go over and take a look. Yeah, let's go and see. As they got nearer, Chen Yulian's crying got louder. Oh dear, my back, I can't straighten my back anymore. Jinyi, you know very well that I've just had a surgery for my back, how could you push me with so much force? I know you want to sever ties with me after marrying into the Huo family because we're just ordinary people who are not worthy of rich families like yours, but, your cousin's school fees have been overdue for a long time. Coming to borrow money from you is my last resort. While Chen Yulian was crying her heart out, Yan Jinyi remained seated, completely oblivious to her behavior. The wives of rich men immediately figured out that Yan Jinyi must have despised her family after marrying a rich husband. They detested such people. She even openly tried to seduce Mr. Tang in front of her husband, Mr. Huo. How shameless. Hey, what's going on? I happen to hear that this lady here is second young mistress Huo's aunt. Why is she bullying her aunt? She probably refuses to admit that she's a commoner, right? You have to accept reality and accept the family that you're born into. Anyway, you can't change the fact that you used to be a wild brat, can you? One of the rich men's wife, who was clearly younger than the others, sized Yan Jinyi up with contempt and mocked her. Chapter 186, I'm too poor. Chapter 186, Chapter 186, I'm too poor. Exactly, second young mistress Huo has gone overboard. She's a complete ingrate. Seeing that the rich men's wives were all standing on her side, Chen Yulian began to force herself to cry. Her grandfather had his reason not to tell her about the engagement agreement with the Huo family. I decided to tell Jinyi about it, only because I felt sorry for her for losing her parents and getting blamed. She was too pitiful, So her aunt helped her marry Mr. Huo. This woman is too unconscionable. As the commotion got louder, more and more people started surrounding them. Jinyi, I really just need to borrow a few 100,000 yuan. No matter how poor I am, I can't sacrifice my son's education. After we receive the money for your uncle's sale of goods, I'll return the money to you. Jinyi, will you please help your cousin? Chen Yulian was bawling miserably at the top of her lungs. Finally, Yan Jinyi could no longer stand it as she stood up abruptly and said, That's the son you had with your former husband. If you want money, go to your former husband. Stop kicking up a fuss and crying here. Second young mistress Huo, you're being too overbearing. He might be her former husband's son, but he's a human too. Exactly. Besides, your aunt was the reason you could marry Mr. Huo. It's reasonable for you to give that money to her. Gossip mongers of this era are more detestable than those of ancient times. Yan Jinyi frowned and glared daggers at the people. Shut up immediately if you don't want to be chased out. Who are you to chase us away? We are old Master Huo's guests. Exactly, no wonder you don't have a status in the Huo family. You can't hold a candle to your older sister-in-law at all. Clenching her fists and twisting her neck, Yan Jinyi said with a straight face, You have 3 seconds to apologize. It's your fault in the first place. Why should we apologize? Before she finished, they heard a loud sound. It was a woman shrieking in pain. Chen Yulian covered her face in disbelief and glared at Yan Jinyi. How dare you hit me? Yan Jinyi looked as if she was saying, What can you do to me? This little b*tch. Chen Yulian looked at the rich men's wives pleadingly. All of a sudden, an austere voice sounded. What are you people doing? Who is this woman? Huo Xishen walked over slowly while Shen Yan and Huo Qingyuan held onto him. On the other hand, a bunch of bigwigs were following behind the 3 Huo brothers. Even Tang Qing was present. Old Master Huo, please help our family. Chen Yulian suddenly leaped over and knelt down in front of Huo Xishen. Huo Chenjiao subconsciously shielded Huo Xishen. Who are you? Chen Yulian stopped yelling and said, I'm Yan Jinyi's aunt. Jinyi's cousin, who is also my son, is planning to go abroad to further his studies, but we spent all that we had on my husband's goods for his business, so we don't have any liquid funds now. Hence, I decided to ask Jinyi for a loan. I know we ordinary people can't be compared to rich families like yours, but I have no choice except to do this because of my son's future. Everyone looked enlightened. They got into a fight because Yan Jinyi doesn't want to lend her any money. Yan Jinyi glanced at Chen Yulian with disgust. The son you had with your former husband has nothing to do with me. Why are you coming to me for a loan? Those of you who are rich enough can lend her money as you please. Chapter 187, You Must Be Crazy. Chapter 187, Chapter 187, You Must Be Crazy. With a disapproving look on his face, Huo Xishen thought, she looks so cool and ruthless. No wonder she's Xishen's wife. Are you here to borrow money from Jinyi? Shen Yan asked gently. Facing the graceful and dignified Shen Yan, Chen Yulian mellowed down. Yeah, I've got no choice. Huo Zihang subconsciously exchanged glances with Huo Qingyuan. She came here to borrow money from second sister-in-law. Is she out of her mind? Second sister-in-law is not the person to go to for a loan. No, the thing is, can she even get any money from her? Jinyi. You're really shameless, huh? Your son is incompetent and idles about all day. Go abroad to further his studies. My foot. How is he qualified? You still have the cheek to come to me for a loan. Putting aside the fact that him and I are not related by blood, even if we are, I'll never lend you any money. After scolding for a long time, Yan Jinyi turned to look at the rich men's wives with a menacing gaze. Why? Do you people look down on me? Even if you do, I'm still married to a better husband than all of you. Are you still envious? Jealous? Come beat me up then. Yan Jinyi was being extremely arrogant. Tang Qing couldn't help but give her an applause. Huo Xishen covered his mouth and coughed a little before walking up to stand beside Yan Jinyi. My wife, don't be uncouth with your language. Yan Jinyi was hopping mad at the moment, and when she saw Huo Xishen, she felt even more annoyed. I like cursing, so what? Dog, let me tell you, I wouldn't be so poor now if you hadn't terminated my black card. Dog. Did Yan Jinyi just call Mr. Huo a dog? Huo Xishen frowned and thought, this woman needs to be taught a lesson. Seeing that Yan Jinyi had the guts to curse at Huo Xishen too, the wives of rich men felt like they could already foresee the scene of Yan Jinyi getting kicked out. That's quite a unique nickname. I didn't know Jinyi had such an affectionate nickname for Xishen. Huo Xishen touched his 1-inch-long beard and laughed out loud. Everyone was dumbfounded. How could they face Huo Xishen as per normal in the future, now that they had learned of the nickname Yan Jinyi gave him? All of a sudden, all eyes were on Huo Xishen. Huo Xishen stood still expressionlessly with no emotions in his eyes. He was so calm that it was as if he had already gotten used to it. My wife is a little playful. Playful? To hell with you. Yan Jinyi gritted her teeth and looked at Chen Yulian angrily, wishing she could beat her up badly. However, she had to prevent herself from doing so because she was afraid that she wouldn't get any pocket money from Huo Xishen. Old Master Huo, Mr. Huo, I. Sensing that Yan Jinyi was glaring at her, Chen Yulian shuddered and looked at the two of them pitifully. How much do you want? Hearing this, Chen Yulian's eyes lit up with joy. Is old Master Huo going to give me money? While Chen Yulian was thinking to herself that she should take the chance to ask for a larger sum of money, Yan Jinyi interjected, no way, her son is good at nothing except bullying others. Yan Jinyi, you little b*tch. Chen Yulian gritted her teeth resentfully. My goal was about to be accomplished and you're trying to ruin things for me now? Dream on. Jinyi, I know you're scared that I might tell Su Hao your whereabouts, but don't worry, I've been brushing him off with random excuses whenever he dropped by. I won't let him disrupt your life now. Who's Su Hao? Before Yan Jinyi could ask that question, Huo Zihang beat her to it. Who is Su Hao? Chen Yulian immediately covered her mouth, pretending to be frustrated at her slip-up. Jinyi, I'm sorry, I accidentally let it slip. Su Hao was obviously a man. Moreover, Chen Yulian's expression made it obvious that he was related to Yan Jinyi. Chapter 188, When I'm Done Slapping You 100 Times. Chapter 188, Chapter 188, When I'm Done Slapping You 100 Times. The wives of rich men, who were extremely interested in the gossip, urged, yeah, who's Su Hao? Tell us, if second young Mistress Huo was unfaithful to Mr. Huo, you. Chen Yulian closed her eyes and acted like she was going to go all out. Jinyi dated Su Hao before she married Mr. Huo. Su Hao is Jinyi's ex-boyfriend whom she loves deeply. Loves deeply, my foot. Yan Jinyi cursed her heart out and stepped forward to grab Chen Yulian's collar with one hand before slapping her hard with the other. I forgot something. If you want to borrow money from me, you have to get beaten up first. After I'm done slapping you 100 times, I'll give you 1,000,000 yuan, let alone hundreds of thousands. Yan Jinyi's sudden behavior rendered everyone present dumbfounded. Tang Qing couldn't help but applaud. Well done, awesome. Chen Yulian felt a hot stinging pain in her face. Yan Jinyi, you're going overboard. Mr. Huo, look at her, she's just angry because she's guilty and ashamed. Mr. Huo, you might not be aware of this, but Yan Jinyi hasn't been behaving herself even after marrying you. I saw Su Hao yesterday and he said that they're still seeing each other in secret. In the end, Huo Xishen looked at Yan Jinyi affectionately and said, I trust my wife. Yan Jinyi looked at him with some surprise. Astonished, Chen Yulian said, Mr. Huo, you. Su Hao said that Jinyi wrote him a love letter and even gave him a lot of money. Nonsense, second sister-in-law either goes to work or spends her time at home all day. Even if you want to slander her, you should show some evidence. We've seen many of such tricks before. It's so common in the circle, you just want to extort some money from second sister-in-law because she married a rich husband, so you're threatening her with some stupid matters of the past. Let me tell you, you can defame anyone except my second sister-in-law. If you do, I'll fight you. Huo Qingyuan interrupted scornfully. Who are you to defame someone from the Huo family? Uncle Zhang, chase her out and forbid this woman from stepping onto the territory of the Huo family ever again. Huo Zihang chimed in and glanced at Chen Yulian with disgust. Actually, regardless of whether Yan Jinyi was really like what Chen Yulian said, the Huo family wouldn't do anything to Yan Jinyi at such a juncture. The Huo family was a mega-rich family that cared about their pride, like all other affluent families. To put it bluntly, Chen Yulian was foolish. Soon, two bodyguards stepped forward to hold Chen Yulian down. Not expecting that to happen, Chen Yulian began clamoring in panic, Old Master Huo, Mr. Huo, I was telling the truth. My children can vouch for me, please believe what I said. Huo Xian remained silent. On the other hand, Huo Xishen obviously kept mum because he was known for being ruthless and so he wouldn't speak up for her. Besides, Huo Xishen had already stated clearly that he trusted Yan Jinyi. Seeing that she had already been dragged several meters away, Yan Jinyi suddenly said, wait. She stepped forward and said, Aunt, you want money, right? Like I said, let me slap you 100 times and I'll give you 1,000,000 yuan. Should we continue? Her face was tensed up and there was a sinister gaze in her beautiful eyes as she looked at Chen Yulian with a mirthless smirk. Chen Yulian was somewhat terrified of Yan Jinyi when she behaved that way. The slap that she had suffered just now was very painful and she was certain that her face was as swollen as a pig's now. No. Forget it, I'm indeed being too kind. Yan Jinyi sighed and slapped Chen Yulian twice again before extending her palm towards Huo Qingyuan. Give me 100 yuan. Chapter 189, How can my wife borrow money from an outsider? Chapter 189, Chapter 189, How can my wife borrow money from an outsider? Huo Qingyuan shook her head. Sister-in-law, I really don't have any. Who would bring money around with them everywhere they go? Yan Jinyi frowned and thought, Huo Xishen came home straight from the airport. Maybe. Forget it, that dog is so stingy. She glanced at Tang Qing again and said, Hey, give me 100 yuan, I can. Before she finished, Huo Xishen took out a banknote from his wallet and said, How can my wife ask someone else for money? Staring at the money on his palm, Yan Jinyi couldn't help but look at Huo Xishen. Wow, for once, the miser is not being stingy. Fearing that Huo Xishen would go back on his word, Yan Jinyi snatched the banknote away from him and handed it to Chen Yulian. Since I've given you 10 slaps, here's 100 yuan for you. Keep the change, you don't have to thank me. She would receive 1,000,000 if she got slapped 100 times, but now she's only getting 100 yuan for being slapped 10 times. Chen Yulian's chest heaved up and down. Yan Jinyi is being such a huge bully. What are you waiting for? Are you planning to keep her around for dinner? Yan Jinyi raised her eyebrows and ordered coldly, Drag her away. She's a fool to come to me for a loan. She scolded her while making her way back into the mansion and everyone stared at her back. Second young mistress Huo is, quite fierce. You guys seem to have complaints about second young mistress Huo just now, didn't you? Tang Qing suddenly pointed at the few wives of rich men and continued, I've taken a liking to her and I'm planning to woo her, so those who look down on her are looking down on me too. Huo Xishen glanced askance at Tang Qing. Mr. Tang, sometimes dreaming too much is an illness. Are you worried, Mr. Huo? Huo Xishen said calmly, she's my wife, there's nothing to be worried about. Tang Qing hated it whenever Huo Xishen behaved nonchalantly when talking to him. Damn it, Do you think you're the only one who knows to put on airs? Tang Qing was just about to lose his temper. Glancing at the people present, Huo Xishen said, I don't want anyone to spread rumors about my wife after you leave this place today. Everyone nodded. Since Huo Xishen had already said so and they were no fools either, they definitely wouldn't dare to spread any rumors. The banquet ended late at night. After seeing the guests away, Huo Xian stopped smiling and stared at his grandchildren with a stern expression. All of you, come in. Huo Qingyuan couldn't help but feel worried for Yan Jinyi. Will grandpa form a bad impression of second sister-in-law after what happened today? Second sister-in-law's aunt is too detestable. I must teach her a good lesson the next time I see her. As soon as he sat down, Huo Xian knocked the cane in his hand against the ground. Where's Jinyi? Grandpa, second sister-in-law should be in the room. Xishen, ask Jinyi to come here. Before Huo Xishen said anything, Yan Jinyi had already appeared at the stairway with a large bag of potato chips. You don't have to go to the trouble, Mr. Huo. Everyone looked at Yan Jinyi, who had already changed into her pajamas and was holding a bag of chips, even though they were all still dressed to the nines. There were some tears in her eyes and she should have just woken up from a nap as her hair was messy too. She looked completely different from her usual domineering, scheming, and sly self. At this moment, Yan Jinyi looked a little cute and vulnerable. What are all of you doing here at such a late hour instead of sleeping? Yan Jinyi rubbed her eyes wearily. We were busy receiving and entertaining guests, but you were sleeping upstairs. Seeing that all eyes were on her, Yan Jinyi scratched her hair and asked with a look of confusion, what are you looking at me for? Do you want to molest me? What outrageous words did you just say? Grandpa is still here. Huo Xishen's eyelids moved and he thought, she really needs to be disciplined. Chapter 190, I married Huo Xishen at a young age. Chapter 190, Chapter 190, I married Huo Xishen at a young age. Huo Xian coughed and asked, Jinyi, what do you mean Xishen terminated your black card? Angered by that question, Yan Jinyi placed the potato chips on the coffee table and then glared at Huo Xishen with her hands on her hips. Grandpa, your grandson is so evil. He terminated my black card just because I invested 100 million yuan of his money in a film. With her arms flailing about, Yan Jinyi exclaimed, that's not all. The returns on the film investment were credited to Huo Qingyuan's card, but he terminated hers too. Huo Qingyuan nodded with tears in her eyes. But second sister-in-law, those are my share of the returns. Yours are still in your account. However, despite being well aware of everything, she couldn't say it out loud and had no choice but to play along with Yan Jinyi and to prove that the latter was poor. I married Huo Xishen at a young age and I deserve some reward for my hard work even if I'm not given credit. He made me stay in a dark storeroom and didn't show me the respect I deserve. Even Huo Zihang's lover had the audacity to bully me. I can forget about that, but now, Huo Xishen even terminated my card. Yan Jinyi forced herself to tear up before continuing, I was so hungry on set, but I didn't even have any money to buy myself some food. Grandpa, don't you agree that he's a dog? Isn't he being too much? Huo Xian frowned and stared at Huo Xishen. Is what Jinyi said true? He slammed the cane hard onto the ground and snapped, nonsense, Jinyi is your wife, but you terminated her card because of 100 million yuan? Besides, the film that Jinyi invested in has now become a blockbuster film and the box office sales are soaring. The stock price of TG Entertainment is soaring too. Based on this reason alone, you shouldn't have terminated her card. Yan Jinyi quickly nodded and said, Grandpa, I'm so pitiful. The production team asked for additional funds, but I was at my wit's end so I had no choice but to ask Zhao Xingkan for help. Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan watched as Yan Jinyi pretended to be innocent and vulnerable. Second sister-in-law, touch your heart and ask yourself if this is eating at your conscience. You live in luxury every day and you'd hit others for no reason when you're bored. How is that being at your wit's end? Remaining composed, Huo Xishen said, Jinyi has been hot-tempered lately. If she has too much money on her hands, she'll get into trouble easily. Dog, who are you calling hot-tempered? With raised brows, Huo Xishen looked at Yan Jinyi and seemed to be saying, what do you think? Jinyi, it's Grandpa's birthday today, let's not talk about those issues. If you need money, you can let me know, Shen Yan said, stepping forward to cut off the eye contact between Yan Jinyi and Huo Xishen. Shen Yan is indeed a gentle and demure beauty. Look, she's so pretty. Yan Jinyi immediately smiled and said, sister-in-law, you're being too kind. She then glared at Huo Qingyue coldly again. What are you doing being so aloof towards such a wonderful wife? Are you blind to have an opinion against her? Huo Qingyue was confused. Did I offend Jinyi? Okay, it's getting late, you should all go back to your rooms to rest. Jinyi, it's my fault for failing to show you enough concern. Don't stay in the storeroom anymore. Move back to Xishen's room tonight. You two should be staying in the same room since you're married. Yan Jinyi immediately leaped up. Move to Huo Xishen's room. You must be joking. Nah, it's alright, I'm doing well here. I love the storeroom and the storeroom loves me too. She then frantically winked at Huo Xishen. Since you hate me so much, you definitely won't want this to happen. To her surprise, a smile graced Huo Xishen's deceptive face and he said in his deep voice, I've neglected my wife. My room is yours, you may move in whenever you please. Chapter 191, We Can Choose Not to Be Husband and Wife. Chapter 191, Chapter 191, We Can Choose Not to Be Husband and Wife. What happens after I go in? Do I let you do whatever you want with me? Huo Xishen looked up and said, It's only a matter of time before a married couple sleeps in the same room. We can just not be a married couple, that'd be simple. Yan Jinyi waved her hands nonchalantly. All eyes were on her again. With a look of bewilderment, Yan Jinyi thought, what's the matter? Am I wrong? Since we're married, we should stay in the same room, but if we're not married, we don't have to. Huo Xian's face was sullen. He had been recuperating and nursing his health on the small island. Hence, he didn't know how strained Huo Xishen's relationship with Yan Jinyi was. And that storeroom. Who arranged Jinyi to stay in the storeroom? Huo Qingyuan immediately took a step back. Back then, she disliked Yan Jinyi and simply treated her like air, but she didn't intend to abuse her. Huo Xishen didn't say anything either and Huo Qingjia was rarely at home so it wasn't possible. Huo Xian's icy cold gaze landed on Huo Zihang. I'll just apologize to second sister-in-law. Huo Zihang was on the verge of tears. Back then, second sister-in-law insisted on cleaning the house and she accidentally smashed my favorite vase. I made her move to the storeroom in a fit of anger. I didn't know that she'd have so much of a backbone that she really moved in. Huo Qingyuan glanced at Yan Jinyi's gloomy face and chided Huo Zihang, third brother, you were being too much. It's just a vase. It's nowhere as precious as second sister-in-law. How could you make her move to the storeroom? Huo Zihang glared at Huo Qingyuan and said, wretched lass, all you do is kick me when I'm already down. Second sister-in-law had a bad fashion sense in the past and you mocked her for being a hillbilly too, didn't you? After the comparison, Yan Jinyi suddenly realized how tolerant the original Yan Jinyi was and how much the Huo family used to dislike her. The original Yan Jinyi was introverted and preferred being alone. Apart from when she was filming, she would usually keep her head low as she walked. If the current Yan Jinyi had such a personality, she probably wouldn't like herself either. No, Grandpa, I enjoy being in the storeroom very much. I really do, please don't make me move out, or I'll die. Yan Jinyi looked at Huo Xian pitifully with tears in her eyes that were full of sincerity. After hesitating for a long time, Huo Xian suddenly sighed and said, I'll have to trouble Xishen to move into the storeroom too then. Old man, if not for the fact that you're rich, I would have long been hostile towards you. Are you trying to push my limits? Yan Jinyi gritted her teeth. My bed is too small to fit two people. Huo Xishen suddenly looked at Yan Jinyi and said with derision, Grandpa just wants us to stay in the same room. I didn't expect you to be so eager to share the same bed as me. My wife, I've been mistreating you in the past. Dog, have you got any shame? Huo Qingyuan whispered into Huo Xian's ear for a while, after which there was a sharp gleam in Huo Xian's eyes. Coughing into his clenched fist, he said, I'm getting old, I can't be bothered to care about you guys. I initially prepared 1,000,000 yuan as a wedding gift for Jinyi, but since Jinyi's relationship with Xishen is so strained. The money. Yan Jinyi gritted her teeth and looked like she was ready to give up everything. Okay, I'll move, it's just moving into a different room. That's not a big deal. I'll just treat Huo Xishen as a dog. Second sister-in-law, where's your backbone? I'll divorce Huo Xishen after getting the money. Huo Xishen looked at her in surprise, for he didn't expect her to agree so readily. Yan Jinyi glared at him before rushing forward to carry the skeleton that Huo Qingjia had given her, back to Huo Xishen's room. Chapter 192, She's the respected leader of the Black Cloud Forest. Chapter 192, Chapter 192, She's the respected leader of the Black Cloud Forest. Huo Xishen returned to his room to see that Yan Jinyi was already sprawled all over the bed with a creepy-looking skeleton beside her. His bed was large and even after Yan Jinyi lied down unrestrainedly, there was still space for him on the bed. You have similar interests as my elder brother. Unfortunately, Huo Qingjia belongs to Shen Yan. Your brother stole her from me, he's a crook, Yan Jinyi said with a sigh. Huo Xishen pursed his lips. She's cheating on me openly, huh? And the other party is Shen Yan. My wife, do you plan to go to sleep with this skeleton? Yan Jinyi tried her best to extend her arm to touch the skeleton's head. It's just a special habit of mine. I'll get insomnia if I don't sleep next to it. After saying that, Yan Jinyi adjusted her position. This bed is only large enough for me and my baby. Mr. Huo, I'll have to trouble you to sleep on the sofa tonight. Huo Xishen took a glance at the sofa and then turned around to enter the bathroom without another word. Hearing the vague sounds of water coming from the bathroom, Yan Jinyi heaved a sigh of relief and kicked the skeleton to the side disdainfully. That dog Huo Xishen should go sleep with Huo Chenjiao instead. Yan Jinyi would usually fall asleep a few minutes after lying on the bed, but today. According to the rumors, Huo Xishen was good at martial arts and he was extremely sly and vicious too. What if he defeated her? Will Huo Xishen act like a beast later? Actually, it's just sleeping next to a man, no big deal. I'm the leader of the Black Cloud's fortress and the formidable bandit that everyone fears. Why am I belittling myself? In the past few days she had been reading a novel about an overbearing CEO falling in love with the female protagonist and now, she compared it to reality and it seemed. As Yan Jinyi thought about it, she subconsciously blushed. Ah, forget it, it's just sleeping with a man. Fortunately, Huo Xishen is decent looking. While she was letting her imagination run wild, she heard the sounds of the door of the bathroom being opened. Yan Jinyi subconsciously looked over, only to be dumbfounded. Huo Xishen walked out of the bathroom, clad only in the bottoms of his pajamas. As he wiped his hair dry with the towel, the veins on his arms popped and he looked extremely charming. He had a great figure, with 8-pack abs, broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and a distinct V-line at his abdomen that was now covered in water droplets. When he was dressed in business wear during the day, he looked rather slim and she didn't expect his figure to be so hot. Yan Jinyi swallowed her saliva. Apart from good looks, Huo Xishen has a great figure too. Staring at his excellent figure, she made up her mind. It'd be waste if I don't sleep with him. I'm going to sleep with this dog. Are you satisfied with my figure? He asked teasingly when he saw Yan Jinyi staring at him openly. He initially thought that Yan Jinyi would be disdainful, but in the end. She sat up cross-legged and stroked her chin with one hand. You may have an obnoxious personality, but your looks and figure are not bad. I don't mind sleeping with you. Sleeping with me? Huo Xishen couldn't help but feel awkward as he didn't expect her to say such lewd things. He coughed and picked up the pajamas on the sofa. After putting it on, he said, you can just think about it. Besides, you don't have that function. What the hell? I've already decided to sleep with you, but now you're not letting me do so? What are you acting all uppity for? Furious, Yan Jinyi questioned, dog, do you dislike me and think I'm not good enough? Huo Xishen looked up and lied down on the sofa. My wife, please mind your words, I'm your husband. That doesn't make you any less of a dog. Chapter 193, Why is there a skeleton on my bed? Chapter 193, Chapter 193, Why is there a skeleton on my bed? Yan Jinyi took a deep breath and thought, forget it, I won't argue with you. Glowering at Huo Xishen, Yan Jinyi lay down on the bed again and looked at the skeleton beside her. She raised her leg to kick it, only to cause it to topple over and fall to the ground. Now that looks better. Time to sleep. As Yan Jinyi forced herself to close her eyes, the scene of the hunky Huo Xishen coming out of the shower appeared in her mind. Huo Xishen's figure could definitely be compared to that of male models. Zhuang Heng's figure wasn't too bad either, but he was a tad bit too fair, which wasn't to Yan Jinyi's liking. Huo Ziheng is not too bad. Unfortunately, he has too many ex-girlfriends. Ah, I wonder how it'd feel like to hug that dog Huo Xishen to sleep. While thinking about it, Yan Jinyi fell asleep. She even dreamed of something. It was an erotic dream. In the dream, she was tied to a metal bed and Huo Xishen was. Yan Jinyi tried to turn over. Huo Xishen had always been a light sleeper. Besides, there was now another woman in his room and thus, he couldn't quite fall asleep. After some time, he was finally sleepy, but he suddenly heard a loud bang coming from the bed. Huo Xishen sat up instinctively and switched on the lights to look at the spacious bed, only to see that there was nothing but a pillow that had been shifted and the duvet that had been rolled up into a ball. Where's Yan Jinyi? Huo Xishen frowned and walked barefooted towards the other end of the bed while his eyelids twitched. Yan Jinyi was laying on the carpet in an extremely unsightly posture. Was that sound caused by Yan Jinyi falling off the bed? Even after falling, she hasn't woken up yet. She's quite a heavy sleeper. Huo Xishen sat by the bed and stared at Yan Jinyi for a long time. What happened? What made her change so drastically? Although her sleeping position was unsightly, he had to admit that she looked rather adorable when she was sleeping. Her lips were slightly parted and her long and curled eyelashes were fluttering. From time to time, her small but taut nose would move a little. Her fair face was now rosy and she looked just like. Huo Xishen bent down to move closer to her and he only stopped leaning in when he could sense her warm breath. At this moment, their faces were only inches apart. She might be hot-tempered and uncouth with her language, but she's quite cute sometimes. After staying in that position for some time, Huo Xishen finally got up when Jinyi kicked her legs. He turned around and was about to go sleep on the sofa, but after some thought, he thought that it would be better to carry her onto the bed carefully. After tucking her under the duvet, he glanced at the skeleton on the ground. Huo Xishen picked up the skeleton slowly and placed it beside Jinyi before making the skull face Jinyi. Jinyi had a good sleep. If it weren't for the dream, it would have been even better. She opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Just as she was about to turn over, a pair of hollow eyes suddenly appeared in sight, followed by the white bones. Dumbfounded, Jinyi screamed, "Oh my god, why is there a skeleton on my bed?" Her voice was deafening and she cursed incessantly while getting out of bed. She then clutched her chest with one hand. Seeing how energized and rejuvenated Huo Xishen seemed to be, Huo Qingyuan originally wanted to sneak a peek. As soon as she and Huo Zihang reached the door, they heard Jinyi screaming and thus pushed the door open without hesitation. Why is there a skeleton on second brother's bed? No wait, why were the both of them sleeping with a skeleton on the bed? The two of them looked at each other in shock and shuddered. Did we discover an incredible secret? Chapter 194, How many women have you knocked up? Chapter 194, Chapter 194, How many women have you knocked up? The two of them subconsciously looked at Jinyi, who looked flustered and stunned at this moment. Is second sister-in-law scared? She can actually get scared too. She asked for the skeleton from brother, but now she's freaked out by it. Jinyi took a long while to get a grip on herself. She turned her head over calmly to look at Huo Zihang and Huo Qingyuan, who shuddered when they met her icy gaze. Where's Huo Xishen? Second brother has gone to the office. Damn it, not only did I dream of him last night, he even scared me with the skeleton bright early in the morning. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a woman. When Jinyi arrived downstairs, she saw Shenyan and Huo Xian playing chess together. Shenyan is really amazing. She's well learned in music, calligraphy, painting, and literature. She's indeed worthy of being my sister-in-law. Jinyi walked over with a smile, and as soon as she took a few steps, Zhang Qiuquan walked over nervously. Old master, there's someone outside. Seeing that he was hemming and hawing, Huo Xian frowned and questioned sternly, speak up, what's going on outside? Zhang Qiuquan subconsciously looked at Huo Zihang. Huo Zihang somehow felt a chill down his spine. There's a pregnant lady outside the door again who claims that her child belongs to third young master and wants him to give her child a status. Again. Glaring at Huo Zihang sulkily, Huo Xian questioned, what's going on? What does he mean again? How many women have you gotten pregnant? Grandpa, I didn't. Those women are just out to cheat me. Ha, quit trying to explain. No matter who that woman is, she's carrying the child of the Huo family, so we can't let the child be stranded out there. Huo Xian knocked his cane against the ground. He didn't expect Huo Zihang, the incompetent grandson, to have a child before his married brothers did. Uncle Zhang, let that woman in. Huo Zihang immediately leaned close to Jinyi and pleaded, second sister-in-law, you must help me. This woman must be the same as the one who came before, she's out to cheat me of my money. Oh God, no matter how much of a playboy I am, I will never get a woman pregnant casually. Jinyi glanced at him coldly and said to Huo Qingyuan, bring the feather duster that I had given to Huo Zihang, over here. Huo Qingyuan was instantly excited. After taking a look at Huo Zihang gloatingly, she quickly scurried upstairs. Third brother is going to be beaten up brutally again. What a poor thing. Soon, Zhang Qiuquan entered with the pregnant woman. Upon sight of her, Jinyi lifted her eyelids and thought, this woman is even more cunning than the previous one. Her baby bump is so large. The woman had a pitiful face and large eyes. She was dressed in simple clothes too, making her a stark contrast from the cheap, hussy-like woman who kept pestering Huo Zihang previously. Huo Zihang, have you had a change of preference lately? Jinyi couldn't help but tease him. Huo Zihang obviously recognized that woman. He sneered and said, I didn't expect you to be the same as those women. Mr. Huo, the child I'm carrying really belongs to you. The woman gazed at Huo Zihang with tears in her eyes while placing one hand on her stomach and one hand on her back. Boolsh *T, I've never touched you before. I've told you many times that you're not my type. This girl looks so weak, fragile, and vulnerable. I prefer an intimidating and feisty woman like Jinyi. No, Mr. Huo, I know you don't mean what you just said. At that time, you were the one who saved me from that bunch of crooks. You said that I belong to you and that I'm your girlfriend whom you are sincere about. Huo Zihang scratched his head in frustration and exclaimed, if I had known that you're such a disgusting woman, I wouldn't have saved you. Chapter 195, It really belongs to Huo Zihang. Chapter 195, Chapter 195, It really belongs to Huo Xishen. This woman is really different. Yan Jinyi asked with interest, Huo Xishen, what do you mean? Make it clear. Previously, I went to a bar with my friends and saw that she was bullied by a group of people, so I pretended to be her boyfriend to stop those people from continuing to harass her. I was just being helpful, but this woman decided to be shameless. Huo Xishen's tone was hostile and he was looking at the woman with great disgust. Yan Jinyi nodded and said, Grandpa, just enjoy the show, leave this to me. Huo Xishen knew that it'd be over for that woman. Heard that? Huo Xishen doesn't like you at all. Why do girls these days like threatening others with their pregnancies? Yan Jinyi asked with a look of bewilderment. As if she had been insulted and humiliated, the woman bit her lip and teared up. I really love Mr. Huo and I'm not after his money. This child. Mr. Huo, you impregnated me after you got drunk the other time, do you really not remember? Bullsh T, cut the crap, I couldn't have had an erection when I'm drunk. Huo Xishen couldn't help but curse. May I know what's your name? Huo Xian asked. Yan Xian. Miss Yan, are you sure that your child belongs to the Huo family? Like this brat said, he was drunk that night so he couldn't have. Huo Xian paused. Blushing with embarrassment, Yan Xian bit her lower lip and hesitated for a long time. It really belongs to Mr. Huo. I gave him my virginity. I didn't expect that I'd get pregnant after just once. Nonsense, it's impossible that I'd sleep with you. Huo Xishen was hopping mad and looking at Yan Jinyi pleadingly. Seated right beside Shen Yan, Yan Jinyi looked at her with a smile and asked, Sister-in-law, what's your take on this? Miss Yan looks rather pitiful. You call that pitiful? Huo Qingyuan finally returned with the feather duster and as she walked, she lamented, third brother locked the feather duster in the display case, it took me such a long time to find it. Second sister-in-law, there you go. After taking the feather duster, Yan Jinyi smacked the couch and said, previously, there was another woman who showed up here and demanded that Huo Xishen acknowledge her child, but her baby bump was much smaller than yours. Yan Xian was surprised and she finally paid attention to Yan Jinyi. Why does this woman look a little familiar? May I ask, you are? Huo Xishen answered proudly on Yan Jinyi's behalf, she's my second sister-in-law. Second sister-in-law? Is she the second young mistress Huo whom everyone is talking about lately? Second young mistress, my baby really belongs to Mr. Huo. Yan Jinyi rolled her eyes and said, I didn't say it wasn't. Do you purely want your child to be acknowledged or do you want to move into the family too? Hanging her head low, Yan Xian sobbed and said, I just want to give my baby a complete family. We can acknowledge your child but after you give birth to him or her, you will have to sign an agreement to sever ties with him or her. If you ever look for the child. Yan Jinyi squinted with a bizarre smile. Yan Xian raised her head and said, that's my child, why do you have to do that, second young mistress Huo? If you don't agree, just get lost. The Huo family will never acknowledge the child. Yan Xian walked towards Huo Xishen with tears in her eyes and pleaded, Mr. Huo, I don't need you to give me a status, please just let me be with my child. Chapter 196, Give the Child a Complete Family. Chapter 196, Chapter 196, Give the Child a Complete Family. If you hurry up and get lost now, no one will take your child away from you then, Huo Xishen said with disgust. Yan Jinyi nodded and said, Huo Xishen has a point. We're not unreasonable anyway. If you take your child away and never show up in front of us again, no one will separate you from your child, don't you agree? But I want to give my child a complete family. Mr. Huo, I won't stop you from getting married and having children with another woman. I just hope that you will acknowledge this child. Acknowledge, my foot. Huo Xishen was on the verge of cursing. What's wrong with me? Why are so many women claiming to be pregnant with my child? Miss Yan, if the child really belongs to our family, we will certainly. Grandpa, we agreed that I'd be handling this, Yan Jinyi interjected. Holding the feather duster, she walked towards Yan Xian and helped her to the sofa in an exceptionally gentle manner. It's not good for pregnant women to stand for too long. If you end up passing out and leaving this place unconscious, the media might make a big issue out of it and accuse our family. Smiling awkwardly, Yan Xian said, I'm not that weak, thank you, second young mistress Huo. You're not weak, huh? Can you understand simple English now? Yan Jinyi questioned coldly as she returned to her seat. What does she mean by that? There was some displeasure in Yan Xian's eyes. Since you want to marry into our family, I reckon you must have more or less found out about our family background. Second young mistress Huo, I wonder. Yan Jinyi smiled and said, we have a tradition. Here it comes, that mysterious and non-existent tradition of the Huo family is back. Huo Xishen was all ears. Huo Xishen couldn't help but sit straight as he stared at Yan Jinyi. Since when is there a tradition in the Huo family? Yan Jinyi wasn't eager to answer. She picked up the cup of milk on the coffee table and began drinking it slowly. Seeing that she didn't intend to continue speaking, Yan Xishen looked at the other people present, only to realize that none of them were paying attention to her. She subconsciously gripped her skirt tightly and said tenderly with a smile, "Second young mistress Huo, please tell me, what tradition is it?" Yan Jinyi looked at her, put down the glass, and asked, "I thought you weren't interested?" "Of course I'm interested, I'd like to find out more about the family too." As she spoke, she stroked her baby bump gently with a kind expression. "In the future, I can tell my child more about the family and let him or her understand his father's family better. This woman is even more cunning than the previous one." Unfortunately, she was facing Yan Jinyi. "We have high requirements for our family members' physique. Can you take a beating?" Huh? Yan Xishen was stunned. Without uttering another word, Yan Jinyi picked up the feather duster and hit Huo Xihang's buttocks. Huo Xihang was caught off guard as he was just standing up to stretch and move his limbs. Clutching his buttocks and blushing, he thought, "How can second sister-in-law hit my butt in front of outsiders?" Yan Xishen was horrified. Huo Xihang is known to take revenge where it's due, but his second sister-in-law actually hit him. Shen Yan and Huo Xishen were just as shocked. So this is the family tradition? Ah, not bad, being tolerant towards beatings is a good tradition. Jinyi is very much like me when I was young and vigorous. She's a good granddaughter-in-law. Did you see that? Is your skin thick enough? Let me beat you up a few more times, if you can stand it, I'll allow you to marry into our family. Yan Xishen subconsciously had her pupils constricted while she forced a smile and said, "I'm still pregnant, if I get hit." Chapter 197, My Bad Temper. Chapter 197, Chapter 197, My Bad Temper. What are you afraid of? I won't hit you in the stomach. Don't blame us for being cruel, this is just our family tradition. Yan Jinyi said nonchalantly with the feather duster. Yan Xishen turned to look at Huo Xishen and said, "Old Master Huo, do you allow second young mistress Huo to behave so outrageously? Miss Yan, is your child giving you the audacity to speak to grandpa in such a manner?" Yan Jinyi questioned as her smile faded. Yan Xishen immediately pretended to be innocent and pitiful again. "That's not what I meant, but second young mistress Huo, if you hate me and my unborn child, you can just say so. Why do you have to make up such a nonsensical tradition?" Yan Jinyi squinted in displeasure. However, Yan Xishen was immersed in her act. "I know you want me to leave on my own accord, but if it's not for the sake of my child, I would not have the cheek to be so thick-skinned and look for you guys. I am an orphan." At this point, Yan Xishen began to sob. "So, I don't want my child to end up as an orphan too." Yan Jinyi retorted bluntly, "You're not dead, your child is not going to become an orphan." "Well said, second sister-in-law." Huo Xihang and Huo Qingyuan wanted to applaud her. Yan Xishen's face gradually turned gloomy. "What's wrong with this second young mistress Huo? Don't they say that she is weak and vulnerable like a country bumpkin?" Before coming, she had done her research and did an entire background check on the Huo family. However, there was very little news about Yan Jinyi. However, Yan Jinyi was allegedly kept hidden because the Huo family disliked her, but now it seemed. "Why does that woman look a little familiar? Where have I seen her before?" Yan Xishen wondered. "Stop staying silent, it'll make me hot-tempered. If you can prove that you can take a harsh beating, you can marry him, but if not, get lost as far as you can. Second young mistress Huo, it's alright for me to be hit, but the baby I'm carrying. Second young mistress Huo, he's already 7 months old. If I hurt him, I. Yan Xishen wept miserably as if Yan Jinyi was a heinous villain. "What are you crying for? Ah, I'm so hot-tempered." Yan Jinyi put a hand on her waist and turned around. "She's such a pretentious bitch who's going to be the death of many. Damn it, I must create an alliance to beat up these bitches. Stop crying." Yan Jinyi kicked the coffee table over. Even Huo Xishen and Shen Yan got a great shock as they stared at her. "Your child hasn't died yet, what are you crying for? Since your baby belongs to the Huo family, he can definitely take a beating. If he dies, that just goes to show that you're trying to cheat us out of our money. Second young mistress Huo, you've gone overboard." Yan Jinyi couldn't stand it any longer as she waved the feather duster and was about to hit Yan Xishen. A tall figure appeared in front of the entrance. "Why is it so lively at home?" Huo Qinjiao strutted in a white coat and glanced at Yan Xishen. Staring at Yan Jinyi, he asked, "Jinyi, it seems you've been angered greatly, huh?" "I'm so angry that I almost died and went back to hell to line up." Yan Jinyi took a deep breath, looked at Huo Qinjiao, and then looked at Yan Xishen's stomach. With a glint in her eyes and a peculiar smile, She said, "Brother, it should be possible to conduct a DNA test for a 7-month-old fetus, right?" Yan Xian finally realized that it was Huo Xishen, who was a famous figure in the field of medicine. "Yes. Do you want to do it now?" Chapter 198, You must ensure that she walks out. Chapter 198, Chapter 198, You must ensure that she walks out. Miss Yan eagerly wants to move in. I bet she thinks the sooner, the better. Huo Xishen nodded and said, "Please move to my private lab, Miss Yan." Lab. Yan Jinyi looked at Yan Xian with sympathy, but the word lab made things different. Yan Xian was a little scared and flustered. She refuted, "No, no, we can go to the hospital." "Don't worry, I have all the equipment we need," Huo Xinjiao replied coldly. "Huo Qingyuan, please take Miss Yan to the lab, and make sure she comes out alive. The Huo family is a prestigious family, and it wouldn't be good if someone dies here. Second sister-in-law, rest assured. Big brother is impressive. He's just going to check if third brother is related to that fetus." Huo Qingyuan waved her hand nonchalantly and looked at Yan Xian in annoyance. "What are you waiting for? Aren't you eager about getting married into our family? Hurry up." Yan Xian tried her best to force a smile and clutched her stomach while trying to stand up. All of a sudden, she shrieked and fell onto the sofa. "Ah, my stomach hurts so badly. Mr. Huo, my stomach hurts, will anything happen to my baby?" She leaned against the back of the sofa, breathing heavily while tears flowed down her cheek. "When I went to the hospital for a physical examination before that, the doctor said that my fetal position is not right and the baby is likely to be premature and difficult to deliver. He also said that I must take good care of my body. Mr. Huo, please quickly take me to the hospital, my stomach hurts really badly now. Are you looking down on my eldest brother? His skills are definitely better than that of the doctors at the random hospital that you go to. Brother, please do a check on her, this is such bad luck. He's not a gynecologist, Huo Xinjiao hated it when someone doubted his professionalism and it was rare of him to clap back at others, but he did this time. "You don't need to go to the hospital, you're faking your illness." Ha 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 ha. Yan Jinyi laughed out loud with no concern about her image. "Mr. Huo, how can you say that? I really..." While gasping for breath, Yan Xian's tiny face turned pale. "Don't take an inch and ask for a mile. To be frank, even if you want to take advantage of Huo Xishen, you have to go through me first. Since you are not resistant to beatings, stop being such a nuisance here. Even a prostitute has better ethics than you." Yan Jinyi hit the feather duster against the sofa where Yan Xian was sitting, making her shudder in fear. Now, her stomach really began to hurt vaguely. "You either kneel down and let me hit you a few times or get out immediately. You have 3 seconds to choose, hurry up." Yan Xian looked at Yan Jinyi in disgruntlement before turning to look at Huo Xian. "Old Master Huo, do you really not care about your great-grandchild? Miss Yan, I thought my granddaughter-in-law Jinyi has already stated very clearly that you either get a test done to prove that the baby is related to the Huo family or leave immediately. Is everyone having the audacity to show up at my door and create a scene just because we've been keeping a low profile lately?" Huo Xian was a figure of status after all. As he said those words, his domineering aura was fully showcased. Yan Xian felt her legs go weak and she finally realized that she seemed to have forgotten how powerful the Huo family was in Shenyang. "Mr. Huo, do you really not want this baby?" Huo Zihang even felt an urge to chase her away. "I'll never father a child who isn't related to me by blood. You guys are going too far." Yan Xian complained as she wiped her tears and scrambled away while supporting her stomach with her hand. Chapter 199, Waiting for a Big Fish. Chapter 199, Chapter 199, Waiting for a Big Fish. With a furious expression, Huo Zihang questioned, "Just like that? Are you letting her off just like that?" Yan Jinyi glanced at her and asked, "Do you know what it means to wait for a big catch?" She turned around and walked towards Shen Yan. After taking a seat, she fiddled with the feather duster and said, "That woman obviously has someone behind her." She investigated the Huo family very clearly. Huo Zihang furrowed his thick brows and said, "Is this a conspiracy? Does someone want to harm the Huo family? I doubt it's as serious as that. Someone is purely trying to use that woman to tarnish the Huo family's reputation." Now, there was indeed someone she suspected. "Let's just wait, the Huo family will be on the hot search list in less than an hour." Shen Yan was a little worried. "Jinyi, you've always wanted to keep your relationship with the Huo family hidden. If that woman was really instigated by someone, you... No, exposing my identity will not be good for them. That was just human nature. Even though she was second young mistress Huo in the first place, some people just didn't want others to find out, perhaps because of jealousy." Huo Zihang believed Yan Jinyi's words almost unconditionally. As expected, The news of Huo Xishen denying his illegitimate unborn child and causing the mother of the child to be hospitalized for resuscitation soon made it to the hot search list. That wasn't all. The discussion rate of that topic on various forum sites was also skyrocketing. There was a set of GIFs attached to the piece of news, which showed Yan Xishen stumbling out of the Huo family residence, falling onto the ground, weeping and then being sent away in an ambulance. The news was well written and even the process of them getting to know Yan Xishen and Huo Xishen had been exposed. In order to support her family, Yan Xishen was forced to work in a bar, but she met a rogue who tried to violate her on the first day of work, but Huo Xishen appeared at the right time. They ended up getting intimate with each other and Yan Xishen found out later that she had gotten pregnant. Compelled by her parents, she had no choice but to go to the Huo family and look for Huo Xishen. However, the Huo family was hostile towards her and second young mistress Huo even chased her out of their home. On the other hand, the baby's biological father simply watched on coldly. Oh my god, the affairs of wealthy families are so complicated. I had a good impression of second young mistress Huo because of female fortress leader in the first place, but I didn't expect you to. I'm not taking sides, but do you guys really think this is a romance novel? Sister Jinyi is a loyal fan of second young mistress Huo. I trust Sister Jinyi. They've gone overboard. Even if they don't wish to acknowledge the child, they shouldn't chase her out. The thing is, the one who chased her out is the Huo family's daughter-in-law. My impression of Huo Xishen has been ruined. I knew he was a playboy, but I didn't know that he was so much of a scum. When Huo Xishen returned home, his family members were all seated on the sofa with grave expressions. Of course, his wife was an exception. Yan Jinyi was playing a video game with Zhao Xingqin and Tan Sang Sang. Having just lost a game and heard Zhang Qiuquan read aloud the comments on the internet, her mood instantly got worse. She stood up abruptly and said, "Zhang Qiuquan, bring me a machete." Huo Xishen walked over calmly and asked slowly, "What do you need a machete for?" "What else do I need it for? That woman has the audacity to take a jab at me. She must have a death wish. I'm going to go chop her up now and feed her to the bugs." "Second sister-in-law, you're so violent." Huo Qingyuan shivered and instantly felt that the scene was too impactful. "Jinyi, you will go to jail for doing that. We're living in a lawful society now, don't get up to any unruly nonsense," Shen Yan quickly persuaded, afraid that Yan Jinyi would really do that. Yan Jinyi shrugged her shoulders and said, "No big deal, I'll at most go back to hell and queue up again." "No big deal." Huo Xishen raised his brows when he heard her saying going back to hell again. "Xishen, you're back. Have you read the news? Chapter 200, didn't you get involved with her? Chapter 200, didn't you get involved with her?" Huo Xishen bowed to Huo Xian and said, "I have." Huo Xishen can solve it on his own. With a look of disbelief, Huo Xishen asked, "No, second brother, how am I supposed to solve it on my own? What happened to brotherly love?" Huo Xishen stared at him coldly and asked, "Didn't you get involved with that woman yourself? Since you got involved with her, you have to solve the problem yourself. Who else are you hoping would help you do it? You may have a good point, but, if I can solve it, would I still be here? Sometimes, women, especially those who are in vulnerable positions, could win sympathy better. If Huo Xishen can solve it on his own, I wouldn't have been involved. As his older brother, how are you so useless?" Yan Jinyi's eyes were wide open, and her face was full of fury. "Didn't you choose not to beat her up for the sake of luring that person behind her?" Huo Xishen looked at Yan Jinyi with a mysterious expression. No wonder he's famous for being a shrewd businessman. He can guess anything. Actually, getting a DNA test done is the simplest method. Should we comfort Miss Yan first? Yan Jinyi immediately shook her head and said, "Sister-in-law, I will never appease others. I just want to know if that person has anything to do with her." At this point, she squinted and exuded a terrifying aura. If it was really as she thought, she would show that person how wonderful it was to live in the world. "Jinyi, that person you mentioned. You'll find out when the time comes." Yan Jinyi got up and straightened her crumpled clothes. "Huo Qingyuan, come with me tomorrow to the hospital that Yan Xishen has been admitted to." "Second sister-in-law, if we do that, won't we be putting ourselves in trouble? By then, even your identity will be exposed. Also, why should we go see her?" Yan Jinyi straightened the feathers on the feather duster and said carelessly, "Who said we are going to visit her?" Huo Xishen asked in a low voice, "Why don't I accompany you?" Yan Jinyi rolled her eyes. "No, I'm scared of dying at a young age. Going with me will lead to a short life." Keeping his eyes fixed on Yan Jinyi, Huo Xishen smiled and said, "I'm going to America tomorrow night. If I don't spend some time with you in the day, I don't know when I'll see you again." Yan Jinyi's eyes lit up and she said, "You're leaving? That's wonderful." Before she finished, Yan Jinyi could already sense the peculiar gaze in Huo Xian's eyes and she hurriedly coughed. That's such a shame. I thought we could use this opportunity to nurture our feelings for each other, lest Grandpa gets worried. At this point, she shook her head. It's good that Jinyi has that intention. Xishen, did you hear that? She wants to get closer to you and yet, you keep working. Is work more important than your wife? Huo Xishen replied in a particularly dignified manner, if I don't work, how will I get the money to support my wife? Don't you think so, milady? Yan Jinyi frowned and thought, give me some money then. Reactivate my black card. Seeing that Yan Jinyi did not answer, Huo Xishen called out again. Yan Jinyi chuckled with an insincere smile. Ah, Huo Zihang, you too. All you do is fool around all day. I hope you've learned your lesson this time. Huo Zihang nodded profusely. The outside world is too scary, the women out there are too scary. If I ever dare to be a playboy in the future, I'll have no heir. Yan Jinyi and Huo Xishen shared the same room that night as usual. Chapter 201, Milady, did you sleep well last night? Chapter 201, Chapter 201, Milady, did you sleep well last night? Huo Xishen saw the skeleton that was kicked on the ground at a glance. Milady, did you sleep well last night? Yan Jinyi still didn't know that she had rolled off the bed last night and was carried to the bed by Huo Xishen. Seeing Huo Xishen standing in front of her at this moment, the erotic dream she had last night suddenly appeared in her mind. Yan Jinyi couldn't help but blush. She asked, of course I slept well. What's the matter? Mr. Huo, didn't you sleep well last night? Huo Xishen nodded and said, indeed, I didn't sleep too well. Since sharing the same room as me makes you feel so terrible, why don't? Yan Jinyi stopped at an appropriate juncture and stared at Huo Xishen with an expectant gaze. It's not because I shared the same room as you, Huo Xishen said with a calm expression as he looked at Yan Jinyi. He continued, I just find it a pity that we didn't get to share the same bed. Dog, stop trying to push your limits. Once I get Huo Xian's money, it'll be over between us. Ah, when will the old man leave? With him around, I feel so uneasy and I have to be on tenterhooks all the time, all because I'm scared of making him unhappy. I'm at least still living off of the Huo family now because I can't afford to buy myself a house, some clothes, and delicious food. If that old man throws me out, that'd be worse. Seems like you don't like that skeleton very much. Yan Jinyi hurriedly picked up the skeleton from the ground and held it in her arms. Who said so? I just don't sleep in a proper position. Huo Xishen couldn't help but think to himself, yes, she does look bad when she sleeps. Fortunately, I wasn't the one who slept beside her last night. Did brother tell you the story of the skeleton when he gave it to you? Looking at the skeleton, Yan Jinyi shook her head and thought, what story can there be behind this stupid thing? Wasn't it mass-produced in a factory? Huo Xishen suddenly looked like he had come to a realization. No wonder you dared to sleep with it. So? Tell me what the story is. Madam, if you're curious, I'll tell you after I take a shower. After saying that, he took his pajamas and went to the bathroom without waiting for Yan Jinyi's reaction. Yan Jinyi blinked, sat still in place for a few seconds before punching the bed all of a sudden. Damn it! What are you being so arrogant for? You just have more money than me. Well, but in the dream, he was indeed pretty good. Yan Jinyi was shy. He's not going to come out in his pants again later, right? Actually, I didn't take a careful look last night and I've almost forgotten what his figure is like. I must take a good look later. Just as he was thinking about it, Huo Xishen had already opened the door of the bathroom and came out. Sitting upright with the skeleton in her arms, Yan Jinyi immediately looked at the bathroom. Damn it, he came out fully clothed in a long-sleeved dress shirt and trousers. Madam, do you think I'm overdressed? Seeing the disappointed expression on her face, Huo Xishen couldn't help but tease her. Huo Xishen originally thought that Yan Jinyi would at least be a little shy, but clearly, he had already underestimated how thick-skinned she could be. Yes, finding a man to marry is all for the sake of admiring their beauty. You're already very stingy. I don't expect to get your money, but can't I appreciate your face and figure? The corners of Huo Xishen's mouth twitched slightly. He surprisingly felt that she had a point. Okay, tell me the story of this skeleton. Huo Xishen turned around and sat on the sofa with his hands behind his head. Seated languidly in a relaxed position, he asked, Madam, do you see the number written on the skeleton? It's a number 14, what's the matter? Part 4 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.